A lot has happened since Brett Hearn and Danny Johnson mounted motorized bar stools in Montreal in an attempt to settle the score that was the tie for the Mr. Dirt Championship in 1997.
Land of Legends.
The winds of change are blowing the Hurricane Steve Payne from his traditional home of the past couple of years, Autodrome Drummond, back to the Land of Legends on a Saturday night. He'll be joined by another major addition to the Land of Legends plate, the Franklin Flyer, Billy Decker. Billy had a fine second-place finish when Rush Hour on Dirt visited the Land of Legends last season. Also moving down from up north is Tim Fuller, who will leave his small block effort at Can-Am to focus on the big blocks. Vic Coffey will be in the Billy Taylor Wrench Sweeteners Plus entry this year. But hands down, the man to beat is the defending track champion, Joe Plazik, who now features Pennzoil backing. AJ Slideway's Alan Johnson will likely move his driver's seat to Merrittville. It would be the first time he hasn't been at Canandaigua regularly since 1975. And Barefoot Bob, recovering from back surgery, is a wild card for this year.
Cayuga County.
ARANY Modified Rookie of the Year, Tim McCready, will electrify the Cayuga County High Banks as he makes his home at the Sunday night venue. He's looking for a big season. And perennial dirt favorite Jimmy Horton just might call Cayuga County a Sunday night home to collect those precious dirt points.
Honda Speedway.
Mike Romano will be defending his track title against some stiff competition. Ageless wonder Jack Johnson is back in the familiar 12A with FX Capura backing on the car this year. AJ Romano is back behind the wheel of the Bobar machine. And Dave Camara has cut back his travel schedule to focus on winning a track title. After a dominating 10-win season, Brett the Jet returns to the Valley with 4 big Bud blocks backing him up. Kenny Tremont's got a brand new Troyer, but winning his 10th championship won't be easy. Other contenders, Rich Ricky Jr., second-generation superstars Donnie Corellis, as well as Eddie Marshall, also have a shot at the track championship.
Orange County.
Phase 300 champion. Skull Bandit Racing Super Dirt Series champ, Co-Mr. Dirt champion, but not Orange County champion. Danny Johnson is looking for redemption against Jeff Hetzler, who wrapped up the Orange County points title at the last points race of the year. Reclamation again backs Hetzler this year, but don't count out third-place finisher Tim Hindley. With brewmaster Bob McCready's return unknown, the points race at Brewerton is up for grabs this year. Tim McCready will be a regular Friday night addition as he chases that elusive title, as well as Billy Decker, Tim Fuller, and Dale Plank, and who knows, the Hurricane winds may even blow at Brewerton.
Rolling Wheels.
Once again, the Fast Track, the special event showcase of the dirt circuit, has a wide open run. Anybody could win the title, but so far the favorites seem to be Billy Taylor and Doug Hoffman as they reunite.
Delaware.
Delmarva Dirt showcases 2 top young talents on the dirt circuit. Kenny Pettyjohn will be chasing after last year's track titleist H.J. Bunting, who will make some selected Skull Super Dirt Series races.
Autodrome Drummond.
With three-peating track champion Steve Payne out of the picture this year, a Canadian will likely sit atop the standings at Autodrome Drummond. Marco Potvin and Budweiser bomber Luke Plante will gun it out for the title at Drummond this year.
Autodrome Granby.
It could be the year of Alain Boisvert at Granby. He's had some very impressive runs in Skull Bandit Racing Super Dirt Series events there. But 94 track champion Mike Romano will be gunning for him, as well as Dave Camara will be competing weekly at Granby. That's our do-si-do around the dirt circuit for the early part of 98. Who knows how it will turn out? Maybe a little bit better than the end of this barstool race. We'll see you in April. 1998 was the 23rd season that dirt modified racing has been sanctioned across the country by Dirt Motorsports. And to quote Crazy Eddie, this year was insane. Hello everyone, I'm Cowboy Paul Szmal. Welcome to our Racing Roundup, a look back at the 1998 Dirt Modified season. The highs, the lows, the crashes, the flips, and even some of the funny stuff. The season started back in the month of February, a first ever trip south of the border for the Rush Hour cameras as Dirt Motorsports and Rush Hour on Dirt invaded the Sunshine State. Sun, Sand, and Speed Weeks must be the Dirt Modifieds back in Florida at Volusia Speedway Park for 3 exciting races. The first night was a rematch of co-Mr. Dirt champions Brett Hearn in the Bud 3 and Danny Johnson in the number 6. And after this pick, roll, and box-out maneuver that would have made Kentucky coach Tubby Smith very proud, Hearn coasted on to victory in the first night of competition. Thursday night's Rush Hour and Dirt show started off with a bang, but Hearn was nowhere near it. He started third, led 47 of the 50 laps, and picked up his second consecutive victory. Saturday night, it was Doug Hoffman's turn to shine. First slipping past Upper Hills, Florida's Buzzy Rudiman, a Dirt Hall of Famer in the Briosky 00. Then it was a family affair as Hoffman slipped to the outside of brother Keith to take the lead. He went on to claim the victory in Saturday night's finale and celebrated with, yep, you guessed it, Billy Taylor. He's back. But the overall Florida Tour Championship went to the corporate jet, Brett Hearn. Although the Florida Winter Tour was indeed a smashing success, there was one dirt superstar who was not in attendance because he was having no war injury worked on. We're, of course, talking about legend Barefoot Bob McCready. Driving a race car is a difficult task. Driving with a fractured back can make a difficult task almost impossible. But despite bone-jarring crashes and pain so severe that most people wouldn't get out of bed, Barefoot Bob McCready has soldiered on with such a condition. But this year, the pain caught up with him. So much, in fact, he dropped out of the Phase 300 while in the running for a Skoal championship.
Lord knows if you want to find me after the heat races and after the hot laps, I'm usually at his trailer, but I mean, I find it tough. I end up, usually bothering the guys more than I bother him because I know there's sometimes he's laying in the back of the truck, and not wanting to talk to anybody.
His last resort was major surgery.
What he had is a fracture of the spine, and up in this thoracic level, which is in the chest, upper chest level, the danger there is that the spinal cord is very, very close to the bone. So if you go in there to do any instrumentation or to realign the spine, obviously you're going to have a very high chance of potential risk.
After an 8-hour surgical procedure just days before Christmas, Barefoot Bob is on the road to recovery.
Right now I feel like I'm about where I was when I went in the hospital because like 2 or 3 weeks ago I didn't even know if I was going to make it through that stuff. That was, for me, it was painful, and but you think you get used to it, but you don't. But now I'm back. Like I said, it's the kind of pain I'm going through now is healing pain, and it's more from the operation and that type of thing, and I can feel it getting better as time goes on. So, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, that's for sure.
With the season swiftly approaching, Barefoot contemplates his readiness to return to the dirt circuit in 1998.
2 weeks ago, I wouldn't have given it a chance of racing this year, but that's how quickly things are turning, I couldn't sleep through more than 2 hours a night, and now I can sleep, 6, 7 hours a night. So, I mean, things are progressing and they're coming along, and you just hold your breath and hope it keeps going in that direction.
Bob has done well. He's done well to the degree that this is a man who has gone back now and started rehabilitating. He's running, he's working out weights, and he says that right now his pain level is dropping very, very rapidly. The preoperative pain has changed, but his surgical pain is also dropping rapidly, and he's back to rowing because he needs to keep his arms in front of him in his work. He needs a lot of force out there. So he can do that already, but he wants to get it stronger and stronger. So I think that within probably another 6 weeks or so, he could probably get back to driving.
It's been a while since I've really got determined about things and stayed focused, but I have no choice. The only thing I have right now in my life is getting better so we can go ahead and do the racing.
Even though it's good to keep a foot down, in this case, you couldn't keep a bare foot down. Bob McCready was back for the start of the racing season, greeting his old friends at the drivers' meeting for the first race of the year at Weedsport. Barefoot Bob McCready was certainly in good spirits before Sunday's season opener at the Cayuga County Fair Speedway. And when he hit the racetrack, his mood was probably even better because his car, in a word, was hooked. On the bottom of the racetrack, he was tearing his way up through the field, first to get Timmy Fuller for the number 4 spot. Then Gary Tompkins proved to be a little pesky as they battled for the 3rd position. Tompkins wouldn't give up all that easily. On a restart, Hearn retook the lead. Joe Plazik in the Pennzoil white car number 1 took the 2nd spot, but McCready ducked to the turns 1 and 2 in the Kinney Drug Store's 9 car and grabbed the 2nd position. A few laps later, McCready set up the pass first going into turns 3 and 4 as he got underneath Hearn's Budweiser Bullet number 3 machine. They did the old drag race down the front stretch. Into turns 1 and 2, McCready again found that sweet spot on the racetrack where he got some bite, enough to wrestle the lead away for good. McCready carried it home the rest of the way and took his victory in only the 2nd race after his comeback from back surgery.
Well, it's pretty special, that's for sure. I mean, end of last year, I didn't know if we'd be able to race, and I can't even explain how good it feels, not to win so much as come out and race and be able to race with a caliber driver like Brett and Joe Plazik and the 84 car, and it's my dream to race with these guys. They don't know it, but they're my heroes out here. When I watch them, it's a thrill for me. So when I get the opportunity like today to be able to race with them, once in a while finish ahead of them, it's terrific.
You know, the McCready magic was never stronger. At the beginning of the season, Bob had racked up a couple of victories and was on the way to much success in 1998. You know, several other things happened at the start of the 1998 season, one of the more significant ones being Jay Castamore's taking over for Will Cagle at the helm of the Orange County Fair Speedway. And that move sparked a lot of new interest and a lot of excitement at the Middletown Hard Clay. Oh, and by the way, the lights went out at Lebanon Valley again, but this time it wasn't an act of God. And there were some drivers who became new members of the posse, while some old familiar favorites went from being the hunter to the hunted. It was Jay Castamore's maiden voyage as general manager of the Orange County Fair Speedway in Middletown. Packed house, packed pit area, but there was one team that was notably missing from the festivities. Dr. J, Danny Johnson, who has been an absolute terror on the hard clay of Middletown for the past several seasons, most recently was last year's Syracuse superhero, as well as co-Mr. Dirt champion, was not in the Freightliner car number 6. Danny was there, but didn't have a ride. He spent the evening trying to get one and wound up not even making the show. And to the big dance we go. The first feature event of the year on the hard clay for the big blocks. Frank Cozy, who had an eye operation in the offseason, is your early race leader, chased by the Kensington Manor 10 of Rich Urich and a bunch of other top guns trying to work their way up through the field. Urich dives down to the inside here, trying to get the lead away from Cozy, gets the bite he needs off the inside of the second corner, and eventually outdrags Cozy for the lead. Urich was able to fend off all challenges to grab the opening night win. A great run for the Kensington Manor car and a great opening night for rookie general manager Jay Castamore. It started as a typical night of exciting racing at Lebanon Valley. Former track champion Kenny Tremont in the 115 mixing it up mid-pack, and then Donnie Ackner and Maynard Ferret get together on the front stretch to bring out a yellow. That brings about a restart, and what would happen next was simply amazing. John Stanley has the call.
Green flag is out and we're underway. Dixie Larkin once again goes to work at the head of the field. Now Donnie Carolus is right there with him. Billy Decker on the inside. Kenny Tremont moving down to the inside. They shuffle Don Ackner out of it. Johnny Tornabine back up to the top 5, and Rich Ricky Jr. charging down the back straightaway.
No, you're not seeing things. Look again. Jason Goff in the number 73 car is at the back of the field. He tags the back of Brett Hearn's Budweiser 3, then bounces off Dave Leckenby's 1 car. The car goes into a violent set of rolls, and he takes out the lights. Literally, I can hear somebody rewriting that Vicki Lawrence song now. Look at it one more time and you'll see how the right front wheel of Goff's car collapsed, sending him into this violent set of barrel rolls. He rode on top of the infield wall in the backstretch, and that catapulted the car up into the air and into a power pole. Not only did the lights go out, the power went out everywhere around the racetrack. Nobody was hurt when the lights went out, but needless to say, this feature event was stopped. At the Land of Legends, follow the Bouncing Bob. Ready? Here we go. Boom, chaka-laka-laka, boom, chaka-boom. Wow, that had to hurt. Take another look at it. McCready said the car was set up a little bit soft. Talked about testing your off-season back surgery. Look at that impact. McCready was sore, but he did start the modified feature race. In said feature event, Joe Plazik in the Pennzoil 1 battled with bug chaser Billy Decker in the 91 in the early going. In mid-pack, plenty of excitement from Mr. Excitement, or the Cobra, Chuck Keeving, whatever you call him fast and call him reckless. 3 deep off turn number 4 with the Tompkins 84 and Dr. J in the 12th team going into 1. He's almost out of the park, but makes the save. He's safe at second base. McCready, meanwhile, dropped out with mechanical problems on the Kinney Drugstore's number 9, and that set the stage for the Hurricane to sweep to the inside of Joe Blazek as they came down for the parallel sticks. With 2 to go, Payne goes to the bottom in turn number 4, grabs the win, and after 3 years of running up north, Payne comes back to score a win at the Land of Legends. The night before at the Black Rock Speedway, Payne broke out his 358 modified, diced it out hot and heavy with Gary Tompkins and the Honeoye Auto Parts 84. For Payne, it was a double dip for the weekend. 97 Mr. Dirt 358 champion AJ Slideway's Alan Johnson is moving his driving skills to Merrittville aboard the potent Mike Maroney entry. He'll defend his 358 points title and leave the Land of Legends behind.
Well, I really miss Canandaigua. My family's there, my daughters are there, and my mother and father are there. Now my brother's racing there, and I've been there for 22 years, and I hate not to be racing there, but if I was racing there, it wouldn't be in a very competitive car, and I chose this deal. I got a chance to win every time we come up here, and Mike's giving me a real great ride.
Feature time at Merrittville, and believe me, there's a lot at stake this year across the Canadian border. Martin Polhill in the number 5 takes the early lead, but the big dogs are running up to the porch quick. Brian Stevens in the 44 is the first man to challenge Polhill for the lead. Behind them, the 12-time consecutive track champion Pete McNeil in the Pyroil 42 is starting to feel the heat from AJ Slideways as he slips past Jamie Turner's 11. Allen runs up on the outside, trying to power his way past Mr. Smallblock, who says, "Not in my house, you don't," throwing the block on the front straightaway. But Allen, undaunted, put the car back on the outside and eventually blew his way past McNeil. Allen continued that forward momentum, passing eventually Polhill and Stevens to get the lead. Put it on cruise control, coasted home for the win. Kenny Tremont and the Jet, Brett Hearn, would sit on the front row as all the big dogs were out to play at the fast track for the first time in 1998. At the drop of the green, Hearn had the advantage with Tremont in second, and the Reclamation Rocket, the new car of Jeff Hetzler, was in the third spot. Hetzler turned a 107-mile-per-hour qualifying heat race lap, and he showed that same speed in the feature, blowing by Tremont to set sail after Hearn. Frank Cozy looked strong in the CarQuest number 88, coming from the 22nd starting position, but late in the race, his tires faded away. That made room for Pat Ward to move up in the 56. Ward was one of the only frontrunners who had elected to go with hard tires for the feature. Most everybody else was on softs. Ward's decision proved to be correct as he stormed through the pack late in the race, threading the needle between Steve Payne and Chuck Bauer's number 99, barreling up through the field, passing Gary Tompkins to move into the top 5, and then setting his sights on the rest of the pack. While Hearn mowed his way through traffic, Tim Fuller was mowing the grass on the outside of turn number 3. Meanwhile, Pat Ward was moving up to challenge the leaders. In the closing laps, Ward had the fastest car on the racetrack until, with 4 laps to go, he had to retire. Meanwhile, Hearn, with the oldest car in the Budweiser Bullet stable of racers, gassed it home for his 4th Dirt Big Block win of the year. A packed house north of the border for the opener of the Brockville, Ontario Speedway, and a twin bill, 2 20-lap feature events. The Joyceville Jet, Rick Wilson, he's back on the gas in the North Country, leading from the pole in the first 20-lap event, and you're not seeing double. That's Wilson's teammate, Paul Moreland, in an identical race car. Moreland would finish second to his boss, who scored the win. Second feature event, Wilson is looking for the sweep. Moreland is also looking to get into victory lane. Either way, it would work out good for the 2-car Wilson team. But Wilson had to fight his way through the field in the second feature, which made for some pretty precarious moments, especially this particular instance. On a restart coming off turn number 4, Wilson gets hip-checked out to the outside. He lost a bunch of spots there, but undaunted, he came charging back up through the field, now chasing his teammate, Paul Moreland. But Wilson got caught up in the middle of this jingle coming off turns 3 and 4, and it did a little bit of damage to his race car.
Yeah, I got all the way up there to third there, about 3 or 4 laps, and then I broke a power steering line, blew it all over, and then I didn't have no power steering the rest of the race, and it's a tough struggle after that.
Wilson was left to literally muscle his way from the back of the field while Moreland was trying to chase down the leader. But Todd Stewart was able to hold off the consistent pressure from Moreland and score the victory in the second 20-lapper. You know, if you picked up want ads in any racing paper in the early part of the season, you might have seen something that read like, wanted, champion driver looking for ride for 1998 season. We're talking about Dr. J. Danny Johnson. After his dream 1997 season with the Freightliner team, at the beginning of 1998, the Freightliner car was stuck in the corral, and Danny Johnson was looking for a new steed.
In 1997, the Doctor had a phenomenal year, including the Dirt Triple Crown, with huge wins at Lebanon Valley, Super Dirt Week, and Eastern States at Orange County. He also earned the Skull Bandit Racing Super Dirt Series title for modifieds and was crowned Driver of the Year. But it's a new year, and with it comes change. We talked with Danny by phone just a few moments ago. Danny, first off, congratulations on a great 97. What a year it was for you.
It sure was. I tell you, I don't think you could ever dream a season like I had in 97. And, you know, I sort of look forward to it in 98, but come across some stumbling blocks.
We know some of your plans are still very much up in the air, but what firm plans can you tell us and your fans about today?
Well, as of right now, what we're going to do is I'm going to run the Simmons Motorsports car at Brewerton on Friday, and then I'm going to run the Thumb Racing car at Canandaigua on Saturday and Weedsport on Sunday, I believe is what's going to happen.
What are you trying to work out for the remainder of your race schedule?
Well, what I'd like to do is I'd like to try to stay with Charlie if I could. If Charlie and I could stay together and continue racing, I think that would be ideal. And that's what I'd like to try and do. And we'll just have to take it from there. You know, we have to work on. You know, we're looking on. You know, trying to get a ride for the Skull Series, and hopefully, you know, we'll be able to get together again and you know, do some more racing.
Well, Danny, we wish you the best of luck in 98. Keep us posted, will you?
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate your time.
They say the mark of a true champion is his or her ability to bounce back from adversity, and Danny Johnson certainly did that in spades during the 1998 season. Several other drivers, old and new, saw their stocks rise and fall more than the Dow Jones average this year. It was a pretty tumultuous season on the dirt circuit.
For the last 20 years, the drivers in the modified division of Honda Speedway have had to contend with a guy named Johnson. Jumpin' Jack Johnson has been the king at the Track of Champions. This year, those same drivers have to contend with another Johnson because Jumpin' Jack's son Ronnie is moving up to the modified division.
It's probably like anybody's biggest fantasy come true. For me, it's something I always dreamed of, and coming to Honda Speedway, where my father's been basically Mr. Fonda for the last 20, 30 years, or whatever it's been. Probably 99.9% of what I learned is from him, if not 100%. And it's going to help tremendously. I mean, look at Timmy McCready, what he learned from his father. The kid's, he's good.
Both men knew this day was going to come, but they have mixed feelings about it.
Well, to be very honest with you, I like to have Ronnie still working on my race car along with Tommy and the rest of the guys. He was a big help to us, but he wanted to race. We had a race car laying in the garage that wasn't being used that I built for myself, and he wanted to race, and I wasn't going to stop him.
Will the younger Johnson have trouble living up to his famous last name?
Well, as far as Ronnie's last name being Johnson, I think he's going to have a lot of pressure on him. There's some high expectations out there for him, and I think Ronnie will really handle it real well. He's a pretty cool customer, got a good head on his shoulders, and I'm sure that at times it's going to be a real tough for him, but I'm sure that he'll handle them situations real well when it comes time.
Well, tonight I'll maybe Jack Johnson's son, but when we're out there on the racetrack, I'm going to be Ronnie Johnson in the number 7.
Ronnie has been following racing with Jack since his early years, but not even family will get in the way of a victory.
Racing's a competitive sport, and I'm sure no different than anything else when other father and son teams race. They're out there to win, and tonight will be no different.
Well, listen, I'll help him off the racetrack. Out there where we're going to be competitive, it's all about dollars and cents here, and I'm going to treat Ronnie just like another competitor, and I'm sure he'll do the same to me when we're on the racetrack.
There's no question that Jack Johnson is already a legend in modified racing, and only time will tell if legends run in the family. That's the deal, Doug. For This Week on Dirt, I'm Tom Baji.
Drivers honored at this year's ceremony included the Pink Panther, Chuck Akulis, who raced in 4 decades with 54 feature wins at 5 Mile Point alone. Lebanon Valley standout Tommy Top Cat Corellis, who was also honored for his 5 decades of racing. A posthumous Pioneer Award was given in honor of the late Jim Hurtubise, who began and ended his winning career racing modifieds on now dirt-sanctioned tracks. The Gene DeWitt Car Owner Award was handed to the Higbee brothers for their long-time excellence as modified team owners. Dr. Dick Berggren, who had a long-standing TV commitment, was honored for his print and broadcast excellence with the Leonard J. Sammons Memorial Award. And the first Mechanic of the Year award was given to crew chief Charlie DeAngelis. He's been to victory lane 4 times at Syracuse with 3 different drivers.
After a blast from the past at the Hall of Fame induction ceremonies, it was time to speed into the present, literally, with the 75-lap Hall of Fame championship for the Dirt Modifieds. And there were several future Hall of Famers donning this star-studded field. Early on, Tim Fuller looked fast in the 19, as did A.J. Slideway's Alan Johnson in the 14J. They were making their way up through the pack when on lap number 20, Danny Johnson in the 12 and Kenny Tremont in the 115 had this get-together over in turn number 2. Every major happening usually has a sequel. And that sequel came about on the caution flag when Kenny returned the favor by hip-checking Danny in the 4th turn. While the tempers were flaring on the racetrack, the capacity crowd at Cayuga County was on their feet, but this battle would end in a black flag for the Tremont number 115. He had to go back to the pits. Bad luck befell the Budweiser Bullet 3 of Brett Hearn. He flattened the left front, was never a factor in this race. While Vic Coffey was leading the contest, Gary Tompkins was coming up from the 9th spot in the Honeoye Bill Trout number 84. Catching Coffey, who led the first 25 laps, Tompkins put this inside move in turn number 1 to milk the lead from the coffee machine. Fuller, Joe Plazik in the 1, and Johnson were moving up strong from mid-pack, but they weren't able to catch Tompkins until a key caution flag with 20 laps left to go. That put him right up on Gary's tail, and Gary got some invaluable help from his crew chief, Stu Shepard, on the radio.
Stu let me know who was behind me and who was fast, and he told me that Alan was fast, and he was fighting with Horton, and we had that caution there, and he went around Horton, and he told me I better get going, and I really couldn't go much faster than I was going, but I just had to keep it straight and try to not let traffic slow me up, and it did, and I think we got through traffic real good, and there it is.
Tompkins' smooth throttle response led him to the $5,000 payday over Alan Johnson and Jimmy Horton. There's nothing like making a good draw to put a smile on your face, especially when you're in front of a hometown crowd. Tim McCready did just that at lap goes Bud at the border by pulling the outside pole position for the 33-lap modified feature event. When the green flag came out, they were going 4 and even 5 wide on the super wide, super smooth, and super fast Can-Am surface. Many notables, including Dr. J, Danny Johnson in the 32, and Doug Hoffman in the 1, all towed up for the lap go event to try their hand at the nasty track of the North. Even drivers like Brett Hearn in the Budweiser 3 and Billy Decker in the Bug Chaser 91 were there. So it was definitely a star-studded field. And yes, the hometown hero, the master of going faster barefoot, Bob, was there. But he was buried deep in the pack while his son, Leadfoot Tim McCready, was having a battle royale with Pat Ward's number 56. They battled side by side for about 20 laps. Ward kept trying, but McCready kept holding him off.
We knew he was going to be tough, and especially starting third. He gave me a run every lap. He kept me honest, because if I would have messed up once, he would have been by me. So, we just tried to stay on the bottom and not make a mistake, but Pat's a heck of a racer, and we raced for 33 laps without even touching. It was a great race for both of us.
Actually, the only reason the tires went away is Timmy ran an excellent race. He never got off the bottom groove, which is about the only place there was some real good bite. So I knew I was abusing the right rear by trying to go around him, but I wanted to win the race, and I didn't want to finish second.
For Leadfoot Tim, it was his first big block modified win and only his second year of competing in the modified division. When the Outlaws come to play, the modifieds get to stay, run a feature event of their own. This 25-lapper was particularly kind to one Pat Ward. First off, he immediately grounded the jet Brett Hearn and his Budweiser Bullet number 3 machine. If Hearn's car was a Bullet, Ward's car was a supersonic missile. He closed in on Dr. J. Danny Johnson. This was the battle for the lead, and the crowd was getting jiggy with it, and so was Ward. He got it. taking care of the doctor on the backstretch. Danny sulked for a while in the second spot, tried to come back on the outside, but Ward with a little flick of the wrist and a trample of the foot on the accelerator says see you to the doctor. It's just like the Giants at 59. Ward wins the wheels! Ward wins the wheels!
I'll tell you, I've been coming here for 25 years, and I've been close 3 or 4 times, but it feels great.
Rich Ricky has had the hot hand at the Accord Speedway, building up a pretty nice winning streak, and he was attempting to add another notch into his victory belt, if you will, on Friday night. The only problem is Barry Davis in the number 9 car. Davis jumped out to the lead early. Ricky in the number 2 spot spent most of the race trying to catch up to him to make a move. While he was busy hunting down the race leader, Tim Hindley was executing the classic give and go to get the number 4 spot. Get the guy in front of you a tap, he slips up high, and you go ahead of him through the next corner. That's what quarter-mile bull ring racing is all about. As for Ricky's win streak, it was rudely interrupted by Davis, who got the Dirt 358 mod win. When you're feeling down and a little low, a double dip at the Valley is definitely the way to go. First of 2 modified feature events, this one rain delayed from July the 4th. Brett Hearn in the Bud 3 cranking it on the bottom, and Kenny Tremont's experimental Troyer's working the bottom lane too. But Tremont at least isn't getting caught up in this pileup on the outside of turn number 4. This one takes Hearn out of contention in the first feature event. For Tremont, a smooth cruise up to the front of the field and a win in the front half of this twilight doubleheader. Tremont, Wilkinson, J.R. Hefner, Maynard Perrette, and Don Ackner round out the top 5. Okay, time for the nightcap feature event. Green flag comes out, everybody romps and stomps looking for racing room. Tremont is way back in 14th starting position at the beginning of this one. Eddie Marshall is much closer to the front, and that allows him to get to the front as he slips into the lead in the familiar number 98 machine. Tremont continuing to work through the back of the field soon would catch up to Guy Sheldon in that Saxton-signed S machine. And look at this. What a sweet move down to the inside. Tremont has got this car dialed. A few laps later, he catches up with the Marshall number 98 and going into turn number 1. Eddie, drive carefully on the way home, and thanks very much for coming. He holds the inside lane in turn number 2. And what of Brett Hearn's machine? Well, the Bud number 3 that ran the first feature probably needed a chiropractor after that race, so they went and dug out the backup Bud number 3. And here's something you don't get to see very often. The white flag is in the air. Kenny Tremont is going around Brett Hearn to put him a lap down. Tremont wins 2. There's nothing like pulling the sweep. Jumpin' Jack is back in the Bobar Service 12B, or at least he was for last Saturday night's race at the Track of Champions. Whether it goes on from there, who knows? Jack started deep in the field, and just behind him, Dave Camara in the Camara Slate car number 26. Dave is in the thick of a very tight points race with Mike Romano at the Track of Champions, and Saturday night he was, in 2 words, en fuego, moving inside and outside the racetrack and barely avoiding a spinning Randy Snyder, who did the Miracle Whip 360 on the front stretch. And what of Jumpin' Jack, who's won a track championship in this Bobar's car himself? Well, he was airborne a couple of times during the race, finished out of the top 5. His son Ronnie in the number 7, who's also campaigned the Bobar car this year, along with AJ Romano, struggled but still had a decent finish. Camara was not to be denied, going to the inside of Dave Lape in turn number 4. I own this territory. You will give way to my mightiness. Camara goes up to the lead and scores another win at the Track of Champions over Bobby Albert, Bob Savoy, Billy Gray, and Dave Lape. Bad luck for Gary Tompkins, winner of the past 2 races at Canandaigua, as his number 84 wound up on the hook on Saturday night. That would definitely throw a monkey wrench into the points race. Green flag racing and all the stars of the Land of Legends mixing it up big time. Barefoot Bob McCready and the Kinney Drugs number 9 dicing it out with Pat Ward's 56, the Hurricane Steve Payne, and Joe Plazik, defending Canandaigua track champion in the 1 car. Danny Johnson was the first of the contenders to emerge towards the front of the field in the Thumb Racing number 12T, here working on Jimmy Phelps number 99 and the Scott Boudinot 3B. Danny would get the lead from Brian Turner, while Billy Decker in the Bug Chaser 91 was storming through the field on the outside. A couple of incidents during the race. Chuck Hebing hip to the Giltec 22 and sends him off on the outside of turn number 3. And Bobby Barron comes across the racetrack, collects Steve Payne, and they go through the spin cycle up in turn number 1. But Payne would be able to continue. Back to green flag racing, and Decker, you might say, was butted because he was on a roll on the outside of the racetrack. Gets the 2-bagger coming off turn number 4 to move up into this 3rd position on the front chute. He disposed of Brian Turner and then battle with Danny Johnson for the lead. Smooth move move on the inside of turn number 4 gives the Franklin Flyer the top spot. Decker is only in his first full season of competition at Canandaigua, but you'd think he's been driving there for about the past 15 years with this kind of performance. But there was another fast car on the racetrack, and he's been fast everywhere. Pat Ward finishes number 56. It's a brand new TO Pro car, and man, is this thing hooked. Look at this move on the inside of 1. No hesitation. He mashes the gas to get by John Moravec. Late in the race, Decker continues to hold the lead. The Doctor running in the number 2 spot, but Ward is closing in quickly, trying to wrestle that runner-up spot away from him. But it's deja vu all over again. Remember Syracuse in 91 when Danny threw a tire in turn 2? Yep, same thing happened again. So now Ward was up to the runner-up spot with just a few laps left to go. Ward started putting the moves on Decker. He goes for the pass of 1, but Decker says, "No pass for you," and holds him off. Now check this out. White flag is coming up as they come off 4. Decker deftly avoids the lap car of Jim Burke. Ward takes opportunity, goes to the inside in turn number 1, but again, Decker is hooked up on top and scores a very strong win.
Yeah, it certainly feels good. I tell you, Canandaigua used to be a real thorn in our sides, and we've slowly been getting together. Bob McCready's helped us out a lot, and we picked Joe Plazik's brain a little bit, and he's always a plus here. He goes super, so we're kind of getting the hang of it.
Decker the winner over Ward and McCready, with Charlie Dunk and John Moravec taking the 4 and 5 spots. The second week of wild warfare at the Delaware International Speedway for the big block modifieds, and Craig Mullins was looking for the win count to match his car number 2, but he would not wind up in victory lane this past Saturday night. Some action in the early going, everybody mixing it up, including Storm and Norman Short in the number 8 car and the 30 of Jamie Mills as they charge up towards the front of the field. Your early race leader is Kenny Pettyjohn, who started right on the front row. You'll notice Pettyjohn's car because it's got a white panel where the number 69 should be on the left-hand side. There's Short diving underneath Rick Bishop to grab the second spot. Going into turns 1 and 2, Bishop drifts wide. Pettyjohn pushes, Short cuts his way into the lead, and Bobby Wilkins started making his presence known about halfway through the race. The veteran in the number 94 car slipped underneath the Mills Blue Hen number 30 in turn number 1, then got the monster bite down to the racetrack in turn number 2 to drag his way into the lead. Mills tried to cut across, but couldn't make the move. With 4 laps left to go, Wilkins again powering off to the inside, this time coming off turn number 4, gets underneath Short, and there's a lap car, which we'll see later on, that factors in here. It's the moving pick. Wilkins walks the right line on the inside and takes the lead from Short. Now here's where the lap car factors in. 2 laps left to go. Your race leader, Wilkins, and the number 94. Second, the black 8 of Short. In the 3rd spot is the 2 of Craig Mullins. Now here comes Mills in the 30 in the 4th spot, and he comes up on that lap car we saw earlier, and it's deja vu all over again. Or is that redundant? Well, anyway, Mills wound up on the inside of turns 1 and 2, just like he did last week. For Wilkins, from there, cruise control on the restart to his 97th career victory at the Delaware International Speedway. That's some serious motoring. Like any good politician, there were a bunch of dirt drivers that made some pretty profound statements during the course of the 1998 year. Kenny Tremont had a career best year in his 10th track championship at the Lebanon Valley Speedway. After coming this close to winning the Skull event at Canandaigua in 1997, Billy Decker returned to the Land of Legends as a regular. Not only won the Skull race, he also won the track championship. Dave Camara unseated the thought-to-be unbeatable Jack Johnson at the Fonda Speedway. And Bobby Wilkins hit the century mark in victories at Charlie Cathel's Delaware International Speedway. Plenty of racing action, and as always on the dirt circuit, the fans got more than they paid for. The moon was only half full Friday night at Brewerton, but you could tell that something was going to go down when Alan Johnson's tire went down the racetrack without him in a crash. Alan was not a happy camper and was going to vent his displeasure at Brother Danny. Psych! Thought he was going to throw the helmet. So did Danny, for that matter. Green flag comes back out, and Danny is in the middle of a 3-way dance for the lead with Pat Ward and the 77 of Dale Plank, who's hanging it major to the outside. Danny goes up to the front of the field, and he's going to do everything he can to stay there. Pat Ward tries to pass him on the outside, coming around turns 3 and 4. Danny comes up the racetrack and says, "Block it!" Ward has to get out of it before he makes contact with a wall. The next time around the racetrack, the same scenario started to happen, but with a much different result off the 4th turn. Ward's car hard into the front stretch wall, and a very dangerous spot. Pat was obviously displeased, first throwing a driving glove at Danny, and then Danny's car broke on the backstretch. While Pat Ward was voicing his displeasure to the crews, they were towing the race car, and Pat decided to meet him on foot. Let's get ready to rumble! Ward with a couple of good jumping left hooks there. You make the call. Did Danny's drift wall Ward, or was this just a racing accident at extremely high speed with a very costly impact? Billy Decker had a crash of his own a few laps into the race, flattening both front tires, but a Rainbow Warrior-style pit stop by his crew got him back to the front for the checker over Tim Fuller, Chuck Bauer, Dale Plank, and Tommy Kinsella. Back in February, the world of dirt racing was introduced to a young and earnest female sportsman campaigner by the name of Barbara Luce. We immediately got to know her better after her first victory in the sportsman ranks at the Orange County Fair Speedway. But then only 3 weeks later, Barbara was fatally injured in a motorcycle accident. The staff and management of Orange County Fair Speedway staged this heartfelt farewell.
Racing at Orange County Saturday night was filled with tears and cheers. It was a night for fans and fellow competitors to say goodbye to sportsman racer Barbara Luce, the 19-year-old who was tragically killed in a motorcycle accident a few weeks ago. Her boyfriend ran a goodbye lap in the familiar number 93, taking her car to the final checkered flag before the Kensington Manor Dash for Cash. The race was renamed the Barbara Luce Memorial Dash in honor of the fallen racer. With the pole position left open like a missing man formation, racers gave it their all for 10 laps. In the end, Neil Luce, father of Barbara, took the checkers and arrived in Victory Lane along with his family. A grateful dad expressed his appreciation to those who have supported the Luce family in their time of great loss.
Nancy and I would just like to thank the whole dirt community, the whole racing community. There are no better people out there.
A 12-race schedule confronted defending Skull 358 Series champion Alan Johnson, and a long road for the Skull title lied ahead over the summer months, with names like Becchetti, Bicknell, Tremont, and Danny Johnson, as well as Brett Hearn, all looking to be contenders for the 98 Skull crown. The Skull Series kicked off for the small blocks at Middletown. Time to tighten up the turnbuckles and step in the ring. Doug Hoffman in the yellow 5 and upstart Todd Burley led the field down to the drop of the green on the Skull Bandit Racing Super Dirt Series first round at the Orange County Fair Speedway. And for Middletown fans, there was a reason to cheer. In the back of the field, a familiar name and a familiar race car. The Doctor was back and operating with the Ray Bramall car number 6, and Charlie DeAngelis was once again the crew chief. Danny spent much of his time in the back of the field, though, in this race, battling it out with the current high point man in Middletown, Andy Becchetti, in the 57. How about this? Brett Hearn tastes the concrete in the AutoZone 20, and he's out early. And not only that, Jimmy Horton also suffered some maladies on the outside of turn number 4. The back end went the wrong way on Horton. And Danny Johnson, yeah, he found the Middletown concrete not to his liking as well. So, who was left to challenge race leader Hoffman's speedy Dieter Schmidt number 5 car? How about upstart Todd Burley in the number 89? The young driver was having a career race, battling it out with Pete Bicknell, who had Ford power under the hood of the Pyroil car number 42. There's some serious contingency cash on the line for drivers with Ford engines in the small block series, and Bicknell could smell the dollars coming. Behind him, Kenny Tremont dicing it out with Jeff Hetzler's number 33. Hetzler also with Ford power under the hood. The shape of the race changed dramatically on lap number 82. Bicknell hounding Hoffman going into turn number 3. He makes a bid for the lead, and you make the call. Contact, and Hoffman is doing the 360 dance. His car comes to a stop on the outside of turn number 4. Is he away scot-free? I don't think so. Bang! In comes Jerry Higbee, and Hoffman's car is a mess. Things were about to get messy for Pete Bicknell as well. Officials sending Pete to the back of the bus, translated from the lead to the rear of the field. Bicknell was not a happy man. Andy Becchetti had a hard day's night aboard the number 57. He had to run the wheels off this race car, but he did, finishing in the 4th spot. Alan Johnson brought the Transaction Group 14J, his Merrittville race car, to the big track in Orange County and came away with a respectable 7th place finish. For Kenny Tremont, he started the same as his car number, 21st, and brought it home to the checkered flag from the 21st starting position. $3,000 payday and a guaranteed starting spot at Syracuse for the defending Prolong 200 champion. He was followed by Jeff Hetzler, Tim McCready, Andy Becchetti, and Tom Hindley. 6 through 10, Tim Fuller, AJ, Steve Botcher, Ricky Elliott, and Bicknell. The name Johnson has been dominant so far this season at the Brewerton Speedway, and Wednesday night's 358 Skull Racing Super Dirt Series event was certainly no exception, with Jack and Danny Johnson starting up on the front row. Danny would get the best of Jack to take the lead, Danny driving his own car number 27J small block machine. While Jack slipped back through the field and Allen worked his way forward, Brett Hearn in the AutoZone number 20 was having a battle with the Pie Royal number 42 of Pete Bignell. They were racing inside the top 5. When they got into lap traffic, though, Bignell fell afoul of the Sean Donath car number 10 and wound up losing a lap himself. Back to racing, the Doctor now feels the heat from A.J. Slideways, working to the outside of turns 1 and 2. Allen is the current big block point leader at the Brewerton Oval. While they were battling for the lead, Dale Plank in the 77X had the hot hand in the second half of the race as he came storming through the pack like a house of fire, passing cars left, right, and center. Lap 46, Danny drifts high in turn number 3. A.J. Slideways slips it down on the bottom of the racetrack and takes the lead, which he will hold to the checkered flag. But Plank is still storming up. He may have a shot at least at the second place that Danny occupies. They follow each other around for a few laps, but then with 5 to go, Dale climbs up over the front end of Roger Phelps, and Dale goes for a tumble in the rough. That left Dale shaken, but not stirring too badly. Alan Johnson, meanwhile, brought it home in the final dash to the checkered flag for another win at the D-shaped Dirt Demon, this time with a 358 power plant under the hood. A.J. Slideways was certainly proving that his 14J would be first on race day, but there was another superstar in the field that was packing one of those 4 power plants under the hood, too. You ever heard of a guy named Hearn? A sardine-like packed house was on hand at the Bosch, the Brockville, Ontario Speedway, for round 4 of the Skull Bandit Racing Super Dirt Series for 358 modifieds on Brockville's ever-tricky quarter-mile clay oval. And starting way back in the field, this doesn't happen very often, Brett the Jet Hearn in the AutoZone, car number 20. Casualties early included the Pie Royal 42 of perennial Mr. Small Block Pete Bignell. Dr. J and his own number 27J also fell victim to problems. Todd Burley was campaigning the red Sheldon LeGuy car number 1 for this swing, battling it out with the Hurricane Steve Payne and the yellow FX Capura FX1 machine. Burley's luck wouldn't be so great though. He tangled up with Laurent Ladesseur and finished 22nd. Here's something you don't see often. Brett the Jet Hearn passing a Budweiser car. It's the Canadian Bud 66 of Luke Plante, who posted a 6th place finish. Hearn had to make one slight detour around Tim McCready's number 94, who had flattened a tire, but that didn't stop his charge. Soon he was up there gunning with the leaders by lap number 60, dicing it out with Tim Fuller and defending Skull Bandit Racing Super Dirt Series champ for the 358s, A.J. Slideways, Alan Johnson, and his potent Maroni number 14J. Up to this point, Hearn had been doing all his passing on the outside, so he figured, what the heck, I'll try the bottom of the racetrack just to throw Alan off. Well, that move didn't work. Going back to the outside, though, that did work. Hearn gets the lead, and Hearn scores the win in the 98 lapper. And he credited a very strong power plant for that win.
I'll tell you, this Ford engine is unbelievable. It's flawless. It just runs so perfect, and I believe this is the first win for a Ford on the Skull Small Block Series, so it's pretty special in that respect too.
You know, we're looking forward to going to Syracuse because now that Pat Morrison has got me a small block that'll really run down the straightaways, I'm looking forward to Syracuse Mile.
At Fonda's 358 Skull Bandit Series stop, Kenny Tremont bringing the noise and the funk, dominating the field. Brett Hearn had to get a pair of binoculars out to keep his eyes on the race leader. Meanwhile, 358 points kingpin at this point. A.J. Slideways' Alan Johnson was battling it out with Jimmy Horton. Tremont, no trouble at all, leading this one flag to flag. Hearn gets second, followed by Dave Camara, Horton, and Alan Johnson. And the teams towed up the New York State Thruway and into another country, Canada, to the Merrittville Speedway for their 358 Skull Series stop. Scott Wood out there in the 38 hanging it out with Brian Stevens in the 44 and Dr. J, Danny Johnson, in the 27J. Now, brother Alan was supposed to start 4th, but his car didn't fire on the feature grid, so he had to start dead last, and in the process of getting to the front, he disposed of his brother with relative ease. He continued on his charge towards the front of the field, passing Mr. Small Block Pete Bignell, a guy he deals with every Saturday night. Meanwhile, Hearn was also trying to work his way up through the field in the AutoZone number 20, but this race belonged to A.J. Slideways.
I knew we had 98 laps to work with, and I knew I had a great car, and I knew I had to try to stay out of trouble and be patient, and you know, that's what I did, and everything worked out well.
Coming into the Skull 358 Series finale at Rolling Wheels, Brett Hearn and Alan Johnson had shared victory in the last 5 races on the trail, so Rolling Wheels was going to be the throwdown to decide the championship. With a little luck, some perseverance, and a good race car, Brett had the victory and a 35-point cushion at the end of the day to be crowned the 358 Skull Series champion. Well, many people consider Brett Hearn to be a favorite to win the Big Block Skull Series title as well, but Danny Johnson was going to be a contender, even if he had to put a little red wagon with bodywork and an engine into the field as a race car.
The kickoff of the Skull Bandit Racing Super Dirt Modified Series is upon us. The hot talk concerns defending champion Danny Johnson, who unbelievably does not have a battle plan for the Tour.
The difficult be if Charlie and I aren't together. That'll be the difficult part about it. But, you know, if Charlie and I get back together, I think, you know, with Ray's equipment, you know, he's got first-class equipment and the whole package together, I think, you know, we should have fairly good luck with it. But, you know, either way we go, even with the Thumb car or even a Simmons car, I think either one of the cars are competitive and, you know, can run in the front. So, you know, I'm looking forward to, you know, doing the best I can and, you know, hoping we get another season like we had last year.
Johnson won't find it easy to repeat regardless of his ride. There's a talent-laden list of experienced drivers ready to challenge for the $15,000 Series Championship. Two of the men to watch happen to be the hottest dirt racers of the early season. Billy Decker has rolled up an impressive string of top 5 finishes in local events during the first 2 months of dirt competition, and Kenny Tremont brings a fiery, determined attitude to the Tour.
I definitely can be a more aggressive driver. You know, usually I basically treat the people, you know, the drivers, everyone the way that, you know, that you would like to be treated, or I would like to be treated. I'd like to return that favor. Unfortunately, in racing, I don't think there's probably not room for that. Maybe I'm just learning that now. You know what I mean? I'm probably better off not having race car drivers as my friends, unfortunately.
Several superstar veterans are looking for redemption after subpar 97 Skull seasons.
Well, you know, we've done this stuff 25 years. These guys have all been with me the whole time. All I need is these guys around me and the sponsors we have, and I have enough confidence. We need a little luck, and we need to get our R&D done. We can make it happen.
We felt last year we should have won half of it. You know, we're good enough at that time to do that, but you know, our cards didn't fall. You know, in this game, you know, a lot of people say you'd rather be lucky than good, but I just want a little bit of that luck.
Jeff Hetzler is hoping to carry over momentum he gained from a strong surge late in the 97 campaign. Doug Hoffman, the 96 Skull champion, is trying to forget a dismal 97 by renewing his successful partnership with crew chief Billy Taylor. The unquestioned favorite for the Skull Championship has to be Brett Hearn. No driver is more prepared for the series than the Jersey star who fell just 13 points shy of the series title last year.
Well, I'd like to go for that 7th title. You know, it's been a few years now since we've won it, even though we won it 6 times. And we've been so close in the last 3 or 4 years and come up short, just a little bit short. So, you know, we need to get back on top again in the series.
The 19-race tour blasts off this week with races at Pennsylvania's Susquehanna Speedway and New Jersey's New Egypt Speedway. The championship battle will rage on throughout the summer and end in October during the Eckerd 300 at Super Dirt Week in Syracuse.
Another year, another quest for the Skull Bandit Racing Super Dirt Series title for the Modifieds, beginning in the Keystone State of Pennsylvania at Susquehanna Speedway. Looking very much like the end of last year, the war to settle the score between the co-Mr. Dirt champions, Brett Hearn and the Bud 3, and the RJD car number 6 of Dr. J, Danny Johnson. Hearn, slipping to the inside of Danny, grabbed the lead early on lap number 7. A little bit further back, Tim McCready was campaigning in his new Jim Beachy-owned Toro Mitsubishi car number 24 and having a decent run, passing dear old Dad in the Kinney Drugstore's car number 9. Bob McCready is the defending champion of this race at Susquehanna, but this year he would not make it 2 in a row as his car faltered on lap number 85 and he retired pit side. One of Pennsylvania's top guns is Craig Von Doren in the number 114 here, mixing it up with Jimmy Horton in the 1, and on the inside in the black number 3, that's Alan Johnson's ride to begin the Skull Bandit Racing Super Dirt Series for 1998. Von Doren was strong early, but he faded to 9th at the finish. Horton and AJ Slideways both landed in the top 5. Up front, Hearn had amassed a very large lead over the Doctor as the race entered its closing laps. But lab traffic and a couple of caution flags bunched the field up and put Danny right on Hearn's back bumper. A 2-lap shootout to the finish. Hearn against Dr. J, who would come out on top. If Danny had his way, it was going to be him in the 6 car, powering to the inside of Hearn. Couldn't get him. He had one more chance coming off turn 4 on the final lap, again down on the bottom, but Hearn off the outside rockets to the checkered flag first and gets his guaranteed starting spot for the Eckerd 300 at Syracuse. Alan Johnson, Jimmy Horton, and Doug Hoffman finish off the top 5, and Bill Tanner was your Burt Hard Charger Award winner. When you're Ms. Dirt Motorsports, you get to do some traveling, and in Mandy Ireland's case, she and the rest of the troops trooped into New Jersey for the first ever race at New Egypt, and Barefoot Bob McCready had the hot number early. The number 9 car taking the number 1 spot from the number 1 car of Jimmy Horton on lap number 6. Watch this. Bobby Barron's 35 collapses the front end off turn number 4, and Doug Hoffman almost gets caught. He's barely able to escape. He would be a factor later in the race. Other drivers that were not factors, Tim McCready in the Mitsubishi 24 only made 26 laps in this race. Jumping Jack Johnson in the Auto Value FX1, not much better, 25 laps. And Steve Moss, well, he had a really bad night. He wound up on his head, and the red flag came out for this one. Brett Hearn also had his problems. He wound up finishing 16th, 4 laps off the lead pace. When green flag racing resumed, McCready was the race leader over Billy Decker's Bug Chaser 91, and third Hoffman in the 1 who would come from the back of the field, and the Doctor Danny Johnson in the number 4 spot. The Doctor will see you now. The Doctor will bill you later. Look at this move. 3 wide off the outside of turn number 2, and the Doctor is gone into the number 2 spot. But this one is not over yet. At least the battle for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. Fritz Epperton in the 51 is up there. He had to come from the rear twice to get to the 4th spot. Hoffman working the outside off turn number 2, crisscrosses to get Danny for 2nd. Then he'd make a run at the race leader.
Actually, we had a real good race car. We just didn't get a chance to race the lanes I wanted to run. I kept being forced to run the bottom when I wanted to be up top, and it worked out that we got to Bob way too late.
McCready got his first modified win since, believe it or not, April of this season. Fans north of the border always turn out in droves when the Skull Bandit Racing Super Dirt Series comes to town, and this year's show at the Cornwall Motor Speedway, no exception. Early on, the fast guy was Billy Decker in the Bug Chaser car number 91. Tearing around the outside of the racetrack, he was flying and battling for the lead with Danny Johnson. He literally flew. Punch your ticket, please. Decker almost collects the wall in turn number 4, but manages to rejoin the fight. Brett Hearn in the Budweiser car number 3 was strong coming up from the back of the field. He also found the top group to his liking, first dusting off Tim McCready in the Direct Subs number 94, then battling for the 2nd spot with Alan Johnson in the number 3 machine. But this tangle up in turns 3 and 4 would halt their forward progress, although both would recover. The trip to Cornwall was not a sweet soiree for Doug Hoffman, who tangled with his teammate Vic Coffey. Hoffman wound up finishing 16th. He hasn't won a Skull race since he won the Skull title 2 years ago. It was also another bad race, the 3rd mechanical failure in a row for Jumpin' Jack. McCready had the hot hand in the Kinney Drug Store's car number 9 as he battled with the Sheldon Legui 1 with Todd Gurley at the keyboards and said, "Father Bob to son Tim, I will not be denied on Father's Day." McCready powers around the outside to take the lead from his son. The next sight that Barefoot Bob saw in front of him was Dr. J. Danny Johnson with a flat right rear shoe on the RJD number 6. Fortunately for Danny, this happened on lap number 49 when caution laps were not counting. He was able to get into the pits, change the tire, and come back through the field to finish 6th. Every position counts. Billy Decker in the Bug Chaser number 91 came back through the field after his near encounter with the 4th turn wall and used the outside lane to say sayonara to the junior McCready off turn number 2 to grab the 2nd spot. He'd set his sights on Barefoot Bob, but as the race wound down to its closing laps, McCready, with the outside lane hooked, had his 2nd win in a row on the Skull Series. He was in a slump for a while, but now he's the hottest driver on the dirt circuit. Barefoot Bob's win at the tight confines of the New Egypt Speedway would be his last Skull Series win in 1998. But Brett Hearn certainly had the bit in his teeth, and he was chomping to put some major dollars into his pocket. A packed house watched and waited to see who would emerge 10 grand richer at the end of the 98-lap Skull Series event at the Tri-City Speedway in Pennsylvania. Jimmy Horton, an early contender, again trying for his first Skull win in a couple of years in the B&F General Machine M1. But, as fate would have it, Horton had bad luck again. This time it was a flat tire that knocked him out of contention for the win. What about fellow car number 1 pilot Doug Hoffman? Well, the Sweeteners Plus number 1 machine was hooked, inheriting the lead after Jimmy Horton dropped out with his tire problem. But Hoffman would not escape the specter of the tire bandit either. This was a major story during this 98-lap affair. With Hoffman falling out, Brett Hearn inherited the lead in the Bud 3 with Kenny Tremont behind him in the 115. Shades of Fonda, except a couple of other players were on this stage. Alan Johnson in the Randy Sherlock-owned 10X machine, and Barefoot Bob McCready in the Kenny Drugstore's car number 9. While they were having a furious dice, Kenny Brightbill was having a furious fight with Frank Cozy that ended with him almost getting the guardrail. And Danny Johnson, well, he's going to have a tough time repeating his Skull Series champion 22nd place finish in Tri-City. How about Steve Botcher in the number 31? Remember the good run he had at Syracuse last year? Well, he posted another good one here at Tri-City, a 3rd place finish for the Botcher machine. McCready tried to chase down Hearn as the laps wound down, but Brett the Jet had the big rocket in his pocket and came home $10,000 richer. For Hearn, it's win number 3 of the Skull Series in '98.
I'll tell you something. You know, I knew that this race tonight paid $10,000 to win on my way here, but when I was on that racetrack, the only thing that mattered was cutting my laps good and clean and staying out of trouble. And I wasn't really thinking about the $10,000 until after the race was over. My guys mentioned it to me on the radio. How's it feel to be $10,000 richer?
Feels great to have a spot for Syracuse. It's the first time in the big block that I ever had one, so you go up there a lot more relaxed. With the heats now, it's a lot tougher to get in, and unless we have a major disaster, we're in, so we're real happy about that.
Under graying and threatening skies, the Skull Bandit Super Dirt Series got its 2nd Western Pennsylvania stop underway at the Lernerville Speedway, with Tim Fuller on the outside of the front row in the number 19, jumping to the early race lead. The winner of the previous night, Brett Hearn, in the Budweiser number 3, making some serious motivating moves on a very tacky and heavy racetrack as he marched toward the front of the field, but then it all went poof! Literally a puff of smoke, and Hearn winds up finishing 8th. How about the Dr. Danny Johnson looking to rebound from a poor performance the previous night? You can bet the doctor had the prescription for this tacky racetrack, and Tim Fuller knew it when Danny trucked to the inside and said good night. He was trying to run away and hide as he sliced and diced his way through lap traffic with surgical precision. But there are a couple of Pennsylvania drivers hot on his tail. Craig Von Dorn in the number 114 and Dwayne Howard in the 126. Could it be? Could a Pennsylvania driver win a Skull Series race in their home state? The plot thickens. Green flag on a restart. Von Dorn nips to the inside of Jimmy Horton off turn number 4 to get second, while Howard in the 126 works to the outside of Billy Decker. While Howard's making the pass there, Von Dorn's making a pass here. He catches Denny by surprise, skates underneath, and we've got ourselves a brand new leader. Just past the halfway point, Von Dorn sneaking through traffic, Danny trying to catch him. It's starting to rain. The race could end at any moment if the weather gets any heavier. Danny knows he has to make his move, and he does on lap number 55. And no more than 6 laps later, yep, the skies opened up and the rains came tumbling down. That sent the fans scurrying for cover under the grandstands, and it sent the track packers and officials out to view the racing surface. After a 40-minute delay, the race was called complete.
Hey, you know, it's one of those deals, you know, we kind of snuck by him there for the lead, and he took us to Skull, you know, it just, you know, we raced with him earlier this year at Susky, and, you know, we got the upper hand on him a couple times, but he got us tonight.
He got me, and so I had to run him down, and he bowed a little bit, and 2 I was able to make a little momentum on him going into 3, and I dived underneath him, and he got the lead coming out of 4.
Famous quote from A.J. Foyt, sometimes you got to get back on the horse no matter how many times it throws you off. Well, Danny Johnson and the number 6 RJD Trucks car had that kind of relationship this year, but every time Danny got knocked off the horse, he was right back up on it and in the thick of the Skull Series hunt.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
With that announcement from our Suzuki representative, the Skull Bandit Racing Super Dirt Series was set to go at the fast track with Brett Hearn on the pole in the Budweiser number 3. Now, if you think with Hearn on the pole that he just mailed it in and won this one easy, forget about it. There's a major story in the back of the field whose name happens to be Danny Johnson, getting a ride in the Biltrot Honeyoy Backup 84. That's a car without the light on the top. You're not seeing double here. There were 2 of them. Gary Tompkins is, of course, in the other car. But Danny was motivated and motoring. Danny, how do you take your Vic coffee? I'll take mine on the outside, thank you. Threading the needle here with A.J. Romano in the 16. Danny was flying. He was possessed. He tossed off Doug Hoffman in the car number 1 and then continued his march through the field. He needed a little help from caution flags and got it here with Pat Ward last winter at Rolling Wheels, getting dumped off the inside of the front stretch. And Brian Turner in the 11 pulled off the backstretch, and that brought out a critical yellow with 25 laps to go. That allowed Danny, who had almost gone down a lap early in the race, to close in on the lead pack, and the stage was set for a modern-day classic. Brett Hearn leading in the Bud 3, Joe Plazek in the Pennzoil 1 in second, and there's the Doctor rolling up in the number 3 position. High-low cross off turn number 4. Danny is getting jiggy with it, working the bottom of the racetrack in turns 1 and 2. He can't do it yet, and there's only 8 laps to go. Could the unthinkable happen at Rolling Wheels Raceway? Watch on. Danny off the outside of turn number 2. Drag racing with Plazek down the backstretch, looking for the move that would get him into second. Plazek's not settling for that. He's going for the lead, and that gave Danny the opportunity to slip past. And then the move of the race. Coming down to the white flag, going into turn number 3. Danny eases it in on the bottom. Hearn stays with them step for step on the outside. They come off turn number 4. Danny drifts up just enough to pinch off Hearn. He's in the lead with 1 to go. Could Danny hold on to the checkered flag? Heck, he'd come this far. He wasn't about to give up. Bringing it down off the corner, the crowd on their feet and screaming as Danny does last to first in a car he's never driven before. For a guy who started out the night as a free agent, this was certainly a sweet triumph. Danny was feeling it, and the crowd was too.
I don't know if maybe I ran it too hard in the first half of the race. I maybe should have backed off a little bit and cruised around a little bit, but I've got a feeling that there's an outside chance that 84 car had hard tires on the way he came on at the end, and, he deserved the win.
Well, I was working Brett over pretty hard, and then when they told me Danny was closing in, I knew it was going to be a tough deal because you had 3 cars that equation, and you don't know where to go. When it's 2, you can pick a line, but when it's 3, everybody's got 1, and it's hard.
It's any victory is a sweet victory, and this one is kind of an amazing one because never being in the car before or really knowing that much about it and just jumping in and going as good as we did. So I guess it was more of an amazing one than anything.
Hey, Tim Fuller, how does it feel to have everybody's number, or more appropriately, the number everybody wants? Fuller drew the pole position as the Skull Bandit Racing Super Dirt Series brought the big block stars back to the Moody Mile for the first time in '98. The green flag drops and the speeds are up there, 130, 140, sometimes near 150 miles per hour on the long straightaways. Fuller gets the lead at the drop of the green flag, but there's trouble on lap number 2. Cars tangling everywhere, and Todd Milton's Terrell's Potato Chips car goes crunch big time. Dale Plank was shaken up in the incident as well. Plank walked away, and believe it or not, the Todd Milton car, yeah, you guessed it, he drove it away. I don't know what they've got in this Terrell's Potato Chips car, but it's definitely strong and up to the challenge. Back to green flag racing, Tim Fuller being hounded by bug chaser Billy Decker in the 91. Who says you can't pass on the outside at Syracuse? Move over, the train be a coming. And there it goes. Decker up into the lead. Brett Hearn in the Budweiser number 3 battling with, who is that guy? That's Maynard Ferret in the number 78 car. Remember the veteran who runs the Lebanon Valley Speedway? Yeah, you're not seeing things. He's holding off Hearn and Doug Hoffman in car number 1. Talk about a strong run. Ferret with a solid top 10 finish. Alan Johnson had to borrow Mike Peratti's backup number 35 machine to make the show after his ride failed in the heat races. Here he goes down a lap as Tim Fuller battles with Jimmy Chester out of New Jersey in the number 44 machine. Chester battled through the second half of the race with a broken power steering pump. As far as casualties go, there were a couple of significant ones. Jeff Hetzler melted down the Reclamation number 33's power plant, and Joe Plazek said he turned his motor into Paschetti in the Plazek Auto Recycler's car number 1. To summarize, Decker brings home the bacon and the chips, a $1,000 bonus from Terrell's Potato Chips for leading at halfway. It's his first win of the year on the Skull Series, and Tim Fuller gets a career-best second-place finish, which also guarantees him a starting spot at Super Dirt Week.
I just need a little bit more motor for down them straightaways. They're long straightaways, and I think we'll have a pretty good combination here. But you really got to hand it to Billy Decker. He really deserves it.
I just got a super run off him coming off of number 2, and was able to get up on the outside of him, and he was smart enough to let me in, get in the 3 before he fed me to the wolves.
Ride hopper Danny Johnson brought the Thumb Racing 12T to Syracuse. He finished in the 9th spot. Take out Danny and put in Jack Johnson in the RJD car number 6. His first appearance in the car on the Skull Bandit Racing Super Dirt Series Trail was the Quebec Swing starting at Autodrome Drummond. It was not one of the best Jack Johnson performances ever, but it was better than the beginning of the series for him this year, which was a complete disaster. Jack wound up finishing 13th in his first run in the RJD number 6. And of the former driver of that car, Danny Johnson, well, he had the Thumb Racing 12T at Drummondville and got caught up in this jingle in turn number 4. He wound up finishing 8th. And even Brett the Jet Hearn had problems. He had to do the fix-a-flat routine in the middle of the race, and despite the speediness of the Bud crew, they went 2 laps down to the lead pace. A pair number 1's playing hook, line, and sinker. Jimmy Horton in the black M1 and in the orange Extend 1. That's the Hurricane Steve Payne in the car he used to campaign in Quebec and now only comes out a couple of times a year. Dave Camara in the number 26 running at one of his old stomping grounds, trying to play spoiler and get the win here, but they've all got to contend with the hot dog Doug Hoffman in the Sweeteners Plus car number 1. Now, neither Hoffman nor Horton have won a skull race in what seems like ages. They were both gunning for the win, but Horton could not catch the speedy Sweeteners Plus machine. It was certainly a sweet victory for Hoffman.
Tonight we had a good starting spot, but we had an awfully good race car, and we finally got the monkey off our back now. We go on to Granby, which is another good track for me, and hopefully we do just as well there.
Hoffman finally gets a Skull Series win over Horton and Dave Camaro, with Billy Decker and Steve Payne taking the 4 and 5 slots. At Autodrome Granby the next night, Hoffman was trying to prove himself prophetic. Meanwhile, Brett Hearn, Jimmy Horton, and Dave Camara got caught up in this monster-sized jingle up in turn number 4. Take another look at this one. You'll see Hearn climbing over the back end of Timmy Fuller's race car, and Horton gets cranked in here pretty good too. Both cars suffering some pretty good damage, but miraculously, both crews repaired their broken race cars and they wound up finishing in the top 10. Back up front, the battle for the lead. Steve Poiret is running the number 28 machine. Hoffman's cranking the outside in the Sweeteners Plus car number 1, looking for the lead on the top lane. He got it! Coming off turn number 2. But creeping up from behind in that orange number 1 was Steve Payne, who's turned many a lap around this racetrack. When he ran up here regularly, he dominated the field with this race car. Slips by Danny Johnson, then goes to work on race leader Hoffman. Payne goes to the outside looking for the sweep off turn number 2. And for the Granby fans, it's deja vu all over again. Or is that redundant? Either way, it's Payne going into the lead in turn number 3 and staying there from lap 70 till the checkered flag fell.
To come here and win, running one race a year and to win it is pretty good. They've sat out the whole season, and I think it's been pretty hard for them, but they worked hard yesterday and today, and the car was real good.
Hometown hero Barefoot Bob McCready in the Kinney Drug Store's number 9 was starting on the outside of the front row in front of the home fans at Can-Am for their Skull Bandit Racing Super Dirt Series event. While he shot to the outside looking for some room, Doug Hoffman went to the lead, and Pat Ward said, "You will take notice of me early, for my car is very strong," blasting past Brett the Jet Hearn. And then on lap number 3, he put paid to Hoffman in the Sweeteners Plus car number 1. Hoffman's luck didn't get much better. Broken shock, he goes a couple of laps down to the feature field. On a restart, something breaks on Barefoot Bob's front end. The car lurches hard right. He gets torpedoed in the back end by the number 1 machine. More on who's driving that car a little later. Everybody else avoids Bob, but he is out of the race. And his son Tim, well, his luck wasn't that much better. He had one of those stubborn pieces of sheet metal hanging off the back of the car. He went into the pits to take it off, but when he came out, the car dropped its transmission. Jumpin' Jack Johnson was running the Bobar Service 12B. That's Alan Johnson in the Mitch Gibbs 2G. Dale Plank in the 77X, all mixing it up. And in the white number 1, the Sheldon LeGuy car, it's Todd Burley. No, wait a minute. As a last-minute replacement, Danny Johnson climbed behind the wheel of the LeGuy car. And boy, was he hooked up in the middle stages of the race, taking care of Bug Chaser Billy's number 91. Then going to the outside and having a nice wheel-banging duo with brother Alan. See you later, big brother. Blank was also strong, posting a 6th place finish on his home track. Jimmy Horton in the black number M1 came on strong in the second half of the race, slipping past Brett the Jet. And with 10 laps left to go, Horton was absolutely hounding race leader Ward, putting some heavy pressure on the guy in the top spot. But then came Dr. J in the Sheldon LeGuy 1 machine. Danny, coming from the back of the field, powered around Jimmy, whose car coughed, sputtered, and ran out of gas. Gary Tompkins, who won the B-Main and started 16th, made a last lap pass on Danny Johnson's car as it hiccuped, looking for fuel. Ward had just enough gas to make it to the finish, his first ever checkered flag in a Skull Bandit Racing Super Dirt Series event. Gary Tompkins in for the runner-up spot, followed by Danny Johnson. Hearn takes a 4th, and Kenny Tremont finishes 5th. It's the Dirt Superstars against the Pennsylvania Posse on Keystone Turf.
The big block modifieds come alive down there in 3 and 4. Hey, fire coming out of turn number 4. Green flag flies. The 98-lap Conquest Auto Parts Goldman and Reacherman is now underway.
One of the Pennsylvania Posse, Jeff Strunk in the W9 machine, trying to chase down leader Botcher through turns 3 and 4, makes contact with the lap car, parks it up on the wall through turns 3 and 4, but he's able to drive away and re-enter the fight. Not such good luck for Botcher, though. When the caution comes out, Botcher is out of the running in the Zellers Mobile 31. And Tim Fuller, who inherited the race lead, also dropped out in the CarQuest Harriman Trailer Sales number 19. That left the Jet, Brett Hearn, and the Budweiser number 3 on the point, with Jimmy Horton playing the Greyhound to Hearn's Rabbit in the black M1. Bad night for Alan Johnson and not a good finish in the Mitsubishi 24, and the 2G had Tim McCready at the controls, and he didn't have a good night either. Didn't those guys drive different race cars a couple of weeks ago? And a bad night for Danny Johnson ventilating a brand new motor in the Thumb Racing 12T. It was shaping up to be a heroic night for Jeff Strunk, though, battling with the tabloid graphics number 19 and perennial dirt star Kenny Brightbill, powering around him off turn number 4, then setting his sights on the dynamic duo of Craig Von Dorn in the 114, who's turned many laps at Grandview, and Billy Decker in the Bug Chaser from 91. From there, Strunk set his sights on the second-place running car of Horton.
Back to the outside. He'll stay in it just a little bit longer down there in turn number 3 and 4. Takes the car way up the banking. Out of turn number 4. Call Jeff Strunk in the number 2 position.
Strunk was on his way towards the front, but he tapped the backstretch wall with the Kentworth W9 machine trying to chase down race leader Hearn. That was just enough to bust the back end out of his car off turn number 2 with just 3 laps to go. A devastating end to what was shaping up to be an incredible evening. Doug Hoffman in the Sweeteners Plus One and the Bug Chaser 91 of Billy Decker keeping their eyes on the bigger prize, namely getting good finishes and looking towards that Skull Bandit Racing Super Dirt Series overall title. For Brett the Jet, business as usual, another win and a pad to his point lead. While the little Genoa giant that could was celebrating his first ever Skull Series victory at the Can-Am Speedway, Brett the Jet had kicked in the afterburners and looked seemingly unbeatable. If he was this tough on the smaller racetracks, how much tougher would Hearn be when we got to the big ovals? Well, the answer was about to come. The question, could Brett Hearn outdraw Sheriff Tremont in the Valley? Last year, Danny Johnson did it in the Freightliner number 6, winning the Mr. Dirt Track USA event at Lebanon Valley for the first time, with Charlie DeAngelis spearheading his team's efforts. This year, the doctor was back after a month's absence in the RJD number 6 for the 98 edition of Mr. Dirt Track USA. But it was not smooth sailing. In his heat race, Bud Chrisman in the Brioski 18 comes up the racetrack and hip checks Danny into the wall. It was a struggle for Danny to even make the show. Doug Hoffman was in the Sweeteners Plus car number 1 that looks an awful lot like a Joe Plazek car, and that's because this is Joe Plazek's car that he ran Canandaigua with this season. Scary moment for Jumpin' Jack Johnson in the Bobar Service 12B as his car rolls down the racetrack. The reason it's rolling down is because Jack was knocked out. This was not a hard impact into the first turn wall, but it was enough to jar Jack's neck and knock him unconscious for several minutes. Jack did come back around and take a trip to the ambulance. He would not run in the feature. Start of the feature event, $17,500 plus on the line, and Rich Rickey Jr. in the number 55 jumps up front, but starting back in the number 5 position, the Budweiser Jet, the number 3 of Brett Hearn. And Hearn was working quickly. After a restart on lap 26, Hearn slipped to the inside of Rickey, took the lead, and promptly checked out. Further back in the pack, the doctor, Danny Johnson, was working hard from his 19th starting position, passing cars left and right and even having Donnie Corellis get a piece of him. That didn't stop him, though. He finished right behind brother Allen in the 7th position. Bug Chaser Billy Decker has been having a fantastic season on the Skull Series trail with the Bug Chaser number 91 machine. He was trying to win his first Mr. Dirt Track USA at Lebanon Valley, but it was not to be the case. For Decker, mechanical problems, a finish back in 25th after completing only 67 laps. Doug Hoffman's regular Sweeteners Plus number 1 showed up with a fresh engine and Billy Taylor. Just 15 minutes before the race started, Hoffman had to forfeit his starting position to start that car, but he came back to 13th. Kenny Tremont, the Fane Concrete number 115, started back in the 14th spot, but this experimental Billy Colton engineered Troyer mud bus was the class of the field. Tremont worked his way slowly but steadily through the pack, and just at the halfway point, pulled the outside power pass on Hearn coming down the front stretch just before lap traffic. Jimmy Horton was running without brakes in the M1, came up and challenged Brett Hearn, number 3, for the second spot with 4 laps to go. Powered around the outside and kept it in the park. Tremont was on cruise control in the second half of the race. Nobody could catch him. A smooth, effortless performance for Tremont that netted him his second Mr. Dirt Track USA victory in the past 3 seasons. $17,500 in the win for Tremont. He's followed by Horton, Hearn, Jeff Hetzler, and Bobby Barron. The brothers Johnson take 6th and 7th, followed by John Hewitt, Chris Moore, and Middletown regular Chuck McKee. Tremont was literally a stud at Lebanon Valley, untouchable. But Brett the Jet was still the favorite when the rush hour cameras rolled for the 1998 season. And boy, did we raise the roof at Middletown, at Delaware, and at Cayuga County. South of the Mason-Dixon line, the local boys can be pretty tough to beat. Case in point, the Skull Bandit Racing Super Dirt Series event at the Delaware International Speedway. Darren Rotten, a regular, jumps into the early lead while the touring drivers have their problems. Tim McCready dances with the front stretch wall, winds up finishing 22nd. Jimmy Horton almost won this race last year. No chance this year, 20th and a DNF. And Dr. J. Danny Johnson had a chunk of clay knock off his fuel line, though he did come back later. Doug Hoffman in the number 1 had a lot to think about with the events of the day earlier involving his crew chief Billy Taylor. But somehow Hoffman managed to retain his focus on the racetrack. Starting all the way in the back of the field, Hoffman came storming up through like a man possessed, working his way up into the number 3 spot by lap 65. Directly in front of him, Jamie Mills, also a Delaware regular, in the number 30 car, slips underneath Rotten and grabs the lead. Hoffman's got the open door on the inside. He's charging. He's on the bottom. He's past Rotten, and he's going to the number 2 spot. Lap number 73. Going into turns 1 and 2, Hoffman says, "I will not be denied the victory. Fall prey to my incredible powerfulness," as he takes the lead from Mills on the outside. But Mills comes back and gives Hoffman the bionic elbow coming off turn number 4. This is lap number 88. Mills is back in the lead, and Hoffman's doing the chasing. Look at the contact again off turn number 4. What a squeeze play. Hoffman does a good job holding onto the car, but a couple of laps later, a bent steering arm sends Hoffman sailing off the first turn into the tires and out of the feature race. That leaves Jamie Mills sitting up in front. Mills has never won a Skull Bandit Racing Super Dirt Series event. He's 4 laps away from doing it. But on the restart, coming down to the green, the bug chaser Billy Decker, who's been sitting back in the number 2 spot, says it's time to win it or wall it. He goes to the outside in turn number 2. Mills comes up the racetrack for the elbow again, but this time Decker has slipped by on the outside to go into the lead. Decker bounding his way off turn number 4, did the dance on the Delaware dirt in the last few laps to score the win. A smiling Billy Decker down here in Victory Lane, and no wonder that was one whale of a finish.
Yeah, it certainly was. It was a heck of a race in front of me all night, and I kind of felt it was going to turn out into a duration race. You know, the track's a little bit rough, and it was kind of hard on equipment. And we got a little hot there, and I didn't want to race with anybody, and my motor was pretty warm, and we just needed to take a shot at it there at the end, and we just got lucky enough and pulled it off.
Billy just went in there, he took a shot, and, you know, it paid off for him. He could have easily pushed off the track, and I won, and, you know, and that's just the way it goes, you know. Today he's a hero, you know.
The cameras were rolling and the field was ready to rock and roll for the first rush hour show of 98 at Orange County. As the green flag dropped, Kenny Tremont, the pole sitter in the 115, darted out into the lead as the rest of the field stormed their way through on the first of 98 trips around the hard clay. Jerry Higbee showing his studliness on the inside of Tremont on lap number 5, grabbing the lead in the number 97 machine. And then Chuck McKee in the 265 would work his way under Tremont, who was developing a bad push. He would slide backwards in a hurry. Hey, it wouldn't be rush hour unless we had, yep, you got it, rush hour traffic. Look at this mix. Hetzler in the 33 is in there, Jack Johnson in the 12B, Danny Johnson in the 6, Brett Hearn in the Bud 3, and Alan Johnson in the 24. Danny and Hearn had this meeting of the minds on the backstretch. Alan escapes to the inside, then a couple of laps later, Hearn does a hoot-dog his 360 and winds up spinning out. He goes into the pit area to change the right rear tire and makes it back out on the lead lap. As the race neared the halfway point, McKee started to throw out the fishing line and reel in race leader Higbee as they started working through lap traffic. It didn't take very long for McKee to get right up on Higbee's back bumper, and he went to work down on the bottom of the racetrack. McKee loves making passes on the inside at Middletown. He probably does it better than anybody else has so far this season. Higbee would try to hold him off, but going into turn number 1, sayonara, Mr. Higbee. McKee with a slide job is in the lead. Billy Decker in the Bug Chaser 91 had a good starting spot, 6th. bided his time in the first half of the race and eventually worked his way up into the top 4. But in the last 10 laps of the feature event, tragedy for Decker in the form of a shredded right rear Hoosier Racing tire, a 15th place finish that was devastating to Decker's championship hopes. Jimmy Horton in the M1 started way back in the 20th position. He had a good run up through the field eventually to finish in the 7th spot. But the man who was really motoring in the second half of the race was the Reclamation 33 with Jeff Hetzler at the controls. In the last 15 laps, Hetzler and McKee had a classic battle for the lead. First, Hetzler tried the inside. McKee bested him by running the top lane of the racetrack. Hetzler would then try switching lanes, going up to the outside of the racetrack for a move and an attempted pick and roll with Tremont right in the mix. That move didn't work. McKee somehow managed to keep the bite on the inside of the racetrack, and out-dragging Hetzler up the second corner, was able to stay up front, but barely. Hetzler, undaunted, continued to charge on the outside of the racetrack, but the Reclamation car was using up its tires. And though Hetzler tried desperately to crowd down towards the bottom of the racetrack, McKee was right there and held off Hetzler's repeated challenges. Coming down for the checkered flag, McKee scored his first ever Skull Series win. Hetzler had to be content with the runner-up spot. Danny Johnson was your Burt Hart Charger Award winner with a 3rd place finish, followed by Higbee and Jack Johnson. The second 5, Alan Johnson, Horton, Hearn, who came back for 8th, then Bobby Barron and Doug Hoffman.
And we are racing. The Suzuki Shootout is on in Weedsport, New York. Gary Tompkins has the outside lane. Jimmy Phelps inside, and Tompkins wrestles away the lead.
Tompkins powers his way around the outside to lead Phelps off into turn number 3. Brian Turner in the number 4 spot with car number 11 as they shuffle out of 4 and down the line. They come out of turn 4, 3 and 4 wide. But out front is Gary Tompkins.
Let's see what happens here. It is Danny Johnson taking over the number 2 spot from Brett Hearn as they negotiate around Jimmy Chester.
Danny Johnson, a daring move on the bottom. Somehow or other made it stick. Now Hearn's going to have to go to the bottom.
That pass was too easy. I expected some paint to be exchanged.
Yeah, or sparks to fly at least.
Look at this.
It's not over yet, Doug. Long ways to go. We're on lap number 36. The lap car of Jason Barney, car number 5, could be a factor here. He's using the outside lane. That's where Danny is. So Tompkins has come to the bottom.
Case closed here.
Yeah, but I think Barney's now changed lanes. And, yeah, that's it. For the moment, anyway.
So Danny Johnson started 16th. He's currently running number 1 here in the Suzuki Shootout. And Danny Johnson is the winner of the Suzuki Shootout.
Gary Tompkins gets second. Third goes to the 91 of Decker. And at the line, it was McCready by a bumper over Timmy Fuller. Very, very
Super Dirt Week mission statements for Brett Hearn. 9th place or better in the Eckerd 300 equals 7th Skull Series championship. For Billy Decker, the equation was a little bit more loaded. Win the Eckerd 300 and you'll win the Skull championship. You just have to beat this Brett Hearn guy. Meanwhile, Kenny Tremont was licking his lips in anticipation of Saturday's 358 modified showcase, the Prolonged Super Lubricants 200.
Alrighty, the green flag is out, and we are underway for the Prolonged Super Lubricants 200 presented by CarQuest, live on Rush Hour. Thrilled to pieces that you're here with us at Syracuse.
And Brett Hearn tiptoed into turn number 1, and there you see the result. He tiptoed in front of everybody else. He has about a 3-car length advantage over Kenny Brightbill as they race down the back straightaway. Lots of jockeying going on behind him as they make their way down the narrow back straightaway.
Oh, we make it about 500 horsepower per car. You're looking at about 30,000 as they growl around. And coming down at a turn number 4 for the first time to click off lap number 1, your leader from Sussex, New Jersey, the corporate Jeff Hearn.
And here they are. They're making a pit stop under green. Can you believe it?
This is unexpected, totally unexpected. You come to expect that here at Syracuse. Brett Hearn and the rest of the field goes with him. Decker, Bacchetti, and Todd Burley in the Y2K. These guys are pitting under green. Unbelievable, Gary. Well, we thought tear-offs might become an issue, and it has become an issue because visibility is becoming a factor out here. It is not raining hard enough to stop this race because the cars are able to dry out the groove where they are. But when they get out to the right or even down to the bottom part of it, Gary, it's really slippery out there.
That's too bad. It's making it pretty much a one-lane racetrack.
Here's a look at the M1 of Jimmy Horton, and down with his crew is Paul Szmal.
The mood is very animated and very agitated down here in the Jimmy Horton pit right now. First off, is the track too slick?
Yeah, I mean, it's obvious they're slipping all over the place. You know, Jimmy's racing with lap traffic, and the guys are, you know, sideways. We can't even race with them.
You haven't pitted yet. Is this a gamble to try to get the win now that we're past halfway?
Yeah, it is. You know, we got to go for it. We made our bet. We got to sleep in it.
All right, so the Horton crew is banking that this race is going to stop, hopefully, before that car runs out of fuel.
So Jimmy Horton, his veteran experience of over 25 years in dirt modifieds, is really showing the way here. This is how you run on a sloppy track. Maybe you can go to school and teach people how to run in the rain.
That was Horton. Oh, there we're going to have our yellow that we were looking for, or that Horton was looking for, we should say. Vic Coffey has lost the wheel on car 32, and Horton just missed that rolling wheel. Man. There he rolls down the back straightaway. There's Jimmy Horton just getting away from that, and I misspoke. He had his lead over Higbee was nearly 3/4 of a racetrack, so the lead was huge, and the caution is going to play all right for Horton, but again, Tremont is dealt the proper hand right now. That's again Vic Coffey, the Sweetener Plus car, limping his way back towards Billy Taylor, the crew chief.
And Horton finally gets to make his fuel stop. He gets to make it under caution. This is going to be a timed gas and go stop. They're hoping they get just enough fuel to go the rest of the distance. You can hear the radio commentary. That's coming from Bob Faust, who is standing up on the roof of the trailer.
Going back on Paul Szmal's story with the Camaro helmet and talking about not able to see, of course that is a factor, but it's an equal factor for everybody.
Sure.
So the playing field is level. It's not the kind of racetrack anybody wants, but that's what Mother Nature has dealt us here this afternoon. We're on lap number 116 complete. We're going to go green on lap number 117.
Top three, you've got former winners by the ton. Think about the total of wins these guys have got. Kenny Tremont on 4. Bicknell's won back-to-back in the 80s, 82 and 83, and the 91 winners, Billy Decker. So we've got ourselves a power trio of former winners as the RPMs come up. Not a lot of laps left. 117 are complete out of a total of 125. Bicknell gets by him. Pete Bicknell takes over the lead from Kenny Tremont in a brilliant restart.
I know there was a reason for having a Canadian announcer here today. Maybe a Canadian winner. Oh my goodness. Pete Bicknell stayed on it harder, went in deeper, and comes up with a number 1 spot. A daring move by the veteran out of St. Catharines as he puts his Hoosier tire, number 42, at the head of the class here with time running out.
Pete Bicknell brings it around slow. Tremont, has he got anything at all for Bicknell? Running in second in the 21.
Lap car will, well, let's see, will be a factor or not. That's Bobby Chalmers again getting out of shape directly in front of the leaders, and it will be a factor.
Oh,
here
boy.
They go. Eric, call a finish.
Here he comes. Pete Bicknell going to come down to grab this if he can get by. Pete Bicknell will take it. He won back-to-back 82, 83, and he'll make it a trio in 1998 in Super Dirt Week 27. Absolutely going crazy in the Bicknell pit. Mr. Small Block, Pete Bicknell, comes through with the win in the prolonged Super Lubricants 200. Let's go down to Paul Szmal.
I tell you what, it's massive jubilation down here in the Bicknell pit, so with good reason. You guys pulled this out. Incredible win.
Yeah, we've been real fortunate. We've worked hard all year, and I'm just happy for these guys. These guys have done a great job. These guys are working their ass off.
Well, I was making moves like that all day. It was real slippery in the bottom, but everybody tried to stay in where there was bite right in the middle of the track, and I just go right in the bottom or up top and right in the slippery stuff. I have it spinning and going sideways and all kind of stuff, but car worked great. I had enough tear-offs just to last me. I ran out of tear-offs with about 12 laps to go. I thought I was going to be in trouble. I kept every lap. I'd have to wipe every corner, so half the times we were steering one hand and wiping with the other. It was unbelievable.
And it just so happens, we were talking at the top of this show about these new Ford engines. You got one under the hood.
Well, it's fantastic. Enders is building a great Ford. There's a few of them out here today, and they're all running great. I knew it'd be fast here, and that's why I came back. We had some trouble when we ran the Chevys, so I knew this Ford could do it here, and that's why I came back this year.
I think there's some people out here that want to see you, man. Congratulations.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. It feels great.
Well, Pete Bicknell has done it. He hasn't been in victory lane in a while here at Syracuse, but he has done the deed this afternoon in the Prolonged 200 here at Super Dirt Week. Pete climbing out of the car. He's one happy guy for certain.
Big block Chevrolets for the most part. Dirt rules say that 467 is the maximum cubic inch displacement. 1 4-barrel carburetor. The cars weigh 2,550 pounds.
The pace car pulls into the pits. Bobby Varon fires out of turn 4. The green flag is out, and the Eckert 300 is on. And Varon grabs the lead. Billy Decker settles in second as the field heads into turn 1.
And Jerry Higbee Jr. getting out of shape early in the other Budweiser car. He falls back now 1 spot. He runs in position number 5, but he's He's about to go to 6 as Pat Ward will make the pass down the back straightaway. So Pat Ward comes to 5, and Higbee falls to 6. The leader is Hearn, but he's got pressure from the bug chaser, Billy Decker.
The field safely through the backstretch. Now turn 4. Here comes Hearn, and 1 lap about to be in the books. Bobby Hearn is a race leader with Billy Decker second, Kenny Tremont third.
And here's a shot from Decker's car as he looks to the inside of Hearn, but Hearn has, well, Decker isn't able to challenge right now. He runs about 2 or 3 car lengths back, but you can see how loose Hearn's car is here in the early going. That could be a problem later on.
Now our race leaders, Bobby Hearn and Billy Decker, have pulled out. Oh boy, high for Blaney.
Yeah, now again, we're just talking about it. If it's handling or if he's horsing it too much, I don't know, but it's cost him some ground, and it may even cost him a position as Hearn is there.
Brett Hearn does not want to be outdone. He's digging down low, but look at the bite there by Blaney. Brett Hearn has a left rear flat, and he's going very, very slowly. A real problem.
Champion goes a lap down.
He's a lap down.
Yellow. Oh, he gets the yellow flag. That'll help. That'll help, but it's not going to bring that lap back.
Brett trying to nurse that car into the pits.
Well, whether Blaney can make it or not has been the question in this pit for about the last 10 laps or so. As we all know, he came in 3 times for fuel, once for tires as well, and twice to top off. And they've got a couple of calculators and a computer going here trying to figure out the mileage of the car. They actually measure how much they get in the car by how much is left in the gas can or the overflow. They take the overflow can and catch that as well, so they can work that into the calculations. And they just arrived at the conclusion that they think they can make it by about 3 or 4 laps, so that they can go 192 laps. Of course, the race is only 188. A lot of science and a lot of math went into the decision here down at this end of the pit. I'm not so sure.
Oh, no math there.
No math. Look out. Oh, Dave Blaney into the wall. Hard hit at high speed.
So all the calculations for fuel, the tires, it makes no difference. Blaney, a heavy hit. There it is. If Decker can hold on, he'll win this whole championship by 16 points. If it ends as is, close.
Hearn up to 14th. Kenny Tremont finished second to Pete Bicknell in yesterday's 358 modified 200. And we have Pat Ward in trouble. Oh my, on lap 185.
10th position car, Pat Ward slows. 2 laps to go.
He's up against the wall. Will he be able to nurse it in?
Tremont is out of gas. Tremont out of gas.
Kenny Tremont has slowed on the race course.
Oh, what a revolting development this is. Now this conservation deal, they got to go the last 3 under green, Doug. So this could be a factor before it's over yet.
And Pat Ward has stopped on the track. Extra laps now. It will be an extra lap situation here in Syracuse. And I'll tell you, Billy Decker has to be on pins and needles. Into turn 3, still looking smooth. Track champion at Brewerton. Track champion at Canandaigua. Track champion at Cuda County. Crowning the racing year of his career. The checkered flag is out. Billy Decker is the winner of the Eckerd 300.
That flight back to North Carolina is going to be real short now, pal. Thanks a lot.
Yes, we did. I'll tell you what, I can't thank the guys enough. I can't thank all my sponsors enough. I can't thank them right now, but I know I'm going to be up there in that chunk of concrete. That's where I've always wanted to be.
I'm going to let you go right there. Congratulations.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.
First ever win here in the Eckerd 300. First ever Skoal championship to Billy Decker.
Bug Chaser Billy's fantastic victory in the 300, combined with the Bud machine going a little bit flat in the tire department, added up to a 16-point margin between Decker and Hearn, with Decker getting his first ever Skoal Series championship. Just ahead, the biggest mountain of all to climb, the Everest of dirt modified racing, the Mr. Dirt title. Could Billy Decker pull off a motorsports version of a hockey hat trick? It would go down to Middletown in Eastern States weekend.
1997, the famous year of the tie between Brett Hearn and Danny Johnson for the Mr. Dirt title. Would one of these two superstars bring home the 98 crown, or would a new face emerge as the champion? As the season moved into the start of the Skull Bandit Racing Super Dirt Series, Hearn and Johnson were joined by two new contenders, Billy Decker, whose Bug Chaser team was breathing fire, and Kenny Tremont, who was having a career year at Lebanon Valley. While Hearn, Johnson, and Bob McCready dominated the first part of the Skull Series, Decker relied on consistent finishes to stay in the hunt, finally cracking victory lane July 3rd at Syracuse. It was a foreshadowing of fortunes to come. While Hearn ported on to score 5 Skull wins coming into Super Dirt Week, Decker had gotten 3 of his own and 3 track titles to boot. Dirt Week again proved to be a pivotal moment in the Mr. Dirt title chase. For Hearn, problems aplenty in a 13th place finish in the Eckerd 300. Tremont's brilliant run ended when his gas tank went dry, knocking him out of title contention. And for Decker, his first ever Eckerd 300 win and his first Skull Series title. The pendulum had swung in Decker's favor. Despite Hearn's dominating performance in the Fonda 200, Decker had only to start the CarQuest Eastern States 200 at Orange County to clinch the Mr. Dirt title. But the Bug Chaser wanted to go out with a bang, and he did with his first Eastern States win. It was a year of firsts for Billy Decker, capped by a command performance that put the exclamation point on his first Mr. Dirt Modified Championship.
Billy Decker's feat was so strong and so difficult, only one other driver in history has done it. Danny Johnson, and he did it last year. So those two drivers now stand a little bit head and shoulders above the rest, if you will. But they weren't the only drivers who made the Dirt Motorsports A-list this year.
In 1997, Alan Johnson shifted his focus toward 358 modified racing and earned his first ever Mr. Dirt 358 modified title. In 98, Alan and his potent Lisa Maroney-owned machine would again be a factor. First order of business, capture a track title, and Johnson did that at his home track, Merrittville. Second, consistent performance on the Skull Bandit Racing Super Dirt Series for 358s. This was a tough order with the likes of Brett Hearn, Tim McCready, Tim Fuller, and many others gunning for the crown. While AJ Slideway scored 5 series wins, it wasn't enough to topple Brett Hearn's performance. The season-ending Sunoco Series Trail would determine the champion. Coming into the stretch run, AJ strung together a set of consistent finishes while Hearn's luck rose and fell. After a third-place finish at Fonda's Championship Trail event, Allen's ability to finish and finish well paid off handsomely. By merely starting the CarQuest 150, he'd once again put the wraps on the Mr. Dirt 358 title. A smooth run led to a 4th-place finish in that season finale at Orange County. Despite losing the Skull 358 Series title to Brett Hearn, AJ Slideways recorded wins when it counted and good finishes at every opportunity. And that spelled the difference, and a second straight Mr. Dirt 358 modified title for Alan Johnson. The Mr. Dirt Sportsman title chase has always been about intense competition, and 1998 was certainly no different. In the 13 championship trail races, 9 drivers took victories. The title chase boiled down to a 2-horse race to the finish between Steve Hall, who had pulled a hat trick with 3 wins in a row on the trail, and Jim Spano, who also pulled down 3 trail wins in addition to a track title at Rolling Wheels. This dynamic duo battled the entire series and brought the championship chase down to the final event at Orange County. While neither driver won that battle, Hall's finish did win him the war. His 14 feature wins and an unprecedented 5th Sportsman track title at Can-Am Speedway, combined with 9 top 5 finishes on the championship trail, earned Steve Hall his 2nd Mr. Dirt Sportsman Championship. With the 4th year of the Mr. Dirt Street Stock Championship Trail came a doubling of the point fund and a return trip to the New York State Fairgrounds for the final championship trail event as part of Super Dirt Week. Orange County regular Andy Dembeck was strong in the early stages of the championship trail, but Canandaigua regular and track champion Tom Barron was hot on his heels. Barron posted top 5 finishes in 6 of the 10 trail events during the summer and brought his Camaro to the winner's circle at Fonda Speedway. Barron closed out the season with a runner-up finish in the Save-On Street Stock Championship at Syracuse during Super Dirt Week and celebrates his first Mr. Dirt Street Stock title. Here are the 1998 Dirt Modified track champions. At the Brewerton Speedway, champion Billy Decker, promoter Harvey Fink. At the Canandaigua Speedway, champion Billy Decker, promoter Glenn Donnelly. At Cayuga County Fair Speedway, champion Billy Decker, promoter Glenn Donnelly. At the Delaware International Speedway, champion Bobby Wilkins, promoter Charlie Cathell. At Autodrome Drummond, champion Steve Poirier, promoter Jacques Lambert. At Autodrome Edelweiss, champion Pierre Dagenet, promoter Roger Lalonde. At the Fonda Speedway, champion Dave Camara, promoter Rick Lucia. At Autodrome Granby, champion Dave Camara, promoter Bob Gatien. At Lebanon Valley Speedway, champion Kenny Tremont, promoter Howie Commander. At the Orange County Fair Speedway, champion Chuck McKee, promoter Jay Castamore. And at the Rolling Wheels Raceway, champion Brett Hearn, promoter Bruno D'Amadio. Here are the 1998 Dirt 358 Modified Track champions. At the Accord Speedway, champion Rich Rickey Jr., promoter David Flack. At the Black Rock Speedway, champion Steve Payne, promoters Lynn Huff and Sam Kelly. At the Brewerton Speedway, champion Billy Abald, promoter Harvey Fink. At the Brockville, Ontario Speedway, champion Paul Moreland, promoter Paul Kirkland. At the Can-Am Speedway, champion Pat O'Brien, promoter Bob Thurston. At the Cayuga County Fair Speedway, champion Steve Glover, promoter Glenn Donnelly. At the Cornwall Motor Speedway, champion Danny O'Brien, promoter Ron Morin. At the Delaware International Speedway, champion Tim Millman, promoter Charlie Cathell. At Autodrome Edelweiss, champion Joel Wallon, promoter Roger Lalonde. At Frogtown International Speedway, champion Dave Hayslip, promoter Dennis White. At the Merrittville Speedway, champion Alan Johnson, promoter Jim Irvine. And at the Orange County Fair Speedway, champion Andy Bicchetti, promoter Jay Castamore.
Well, a heartfelt congratulations to all of our champions for 1998. All right, time for me to let my hair down and have some fun. Well, I guess I already did. Time for the first annual Cowboy Paul Szmal Corrali Awards. For your viewing pleasure, we present some of the wildest, unscheduled aerial departures of the 1998 season. Stuff that would make NASA proud if you changed their name to the National Airborne Stalkers Association. Some of these crashes got pretty crazy. This guy tried to knock down the wall and lost. Then you have the disgraceful pirouette and twist courtesy of Mr. Doucette. There's always an incredible shreddable or two to be found. But these we consider the best helpings of upside down cake of the year. It's an old sport translated into the 90s. Extreme dwarf tossing. Pretty amazing that the driver actually walked away from this. Let's slow-mo this puppy and try to count the flips. 1, 2, forget about it. What happens when the upside down cake becomes a triple layer? You get this crash from the Fulton Speedway. Quite possibly the best multiple flip of the season. Dale Plank pounds the fence. He's about to get plastered by Mike Colston, sending Colston, Pat Ward, and Roy Shields into the spin cycle. Plus, Pat Ward walked away from this one and actually raced later the same day. Take another look at this one. You talk about your extreme impacts. Definitely the best triple flip of the season, bar none. But here's our choice for flip of the year. This hapless Lebanon Valley driver begins by doing a very cool soul grind style move on top of the backstretch concrete wall and ends this one with a graceful spearing of the light pole, which promptly knocks the lights out over the entire racetrack. Talk about fade to black. You know, I like my snack foods real crunchy. So without further ado, let us present the crunches of the year. A heaping helping of colossally crunchy, extra crispy, dead solid, dead center, deliciously delightful Dorito dancing. Did any of that make sense? Probably not. But here's our finalists for Crunch of the Year. This 4-cylinder Wango Tango from Brewerton. Pat Ward doing his impersonation of a pinball caught between the bumpers at Canandaigua. But hands down, the Crunch of the Year goes to the Buckeye Bullet, Dave Blaney, going boldly where many men have gone before, except he did it a heck of a lot harder. Talk about your Harvey Wallbangers. Take another look at this one. So this is what it's like when the cruise missile loses its guidance system and just goes running off errantly until it finds something to whack itself into. Booyah! Let's get ready to rumble! Time for the Cowboy selections for some of the best steer wrestling dirt motorsport style during '98. Pete Bicknell, was this subtle contact with Doug Hoffman or a hockey hip check that would have made Eric Lindros and the Legion of Doom proud?
Oh my God, he killed Kenny!
No, wait a minute, that's the wrong show. This is Kenny Tremont and Danny Johnson going a couple of rounds at a little twister exhibition at Cayuga County. If they need both hands for driving, I think they'd be giving each other the Degeneration X crotch pointer. But nothing could top the Friday night fights at the Brewerton Speedway. In this corner, Smush Tee-Up Pro Car and all, Pat Ward. And in this corner, in the number 12, about to have the gloves thrown at him is the Dr. Danny Johnson. And this one's far from over. I wonder how the judges scored this. If you use the 10-point must system, I think Pat Ward won this round. I guess the only thing left to say is this. Was this move by Danny Johnson his impersonation of The Rock doing the people's elbow? A year of incredible action, beautiful battles, and dare I say, more than a few fantastic finishes. In the immortal words of Mills Lane, let's get it on and take a look at the best races of 1998. Our second runner-up is the Rush Hour Rumble at the Orange County Fair Speedway. The man, Chuck McKee, who is king of the hill in Middletown this year, puts the Hearns on the Skull Field to claim his first ever Skull Series victory. And another first-time Skull Series winner is our first runner-up, Pat Ward, laying the smack down on the big boys with the big toys at Can-Am, scoring his first Skull Series victory. If you think Pat's pumped, give me a hell yeah! But undoubtedly the race of the year went to this event at the Rolling Wheels Raceway. Danny Johnson quits the RJD Trucks ride early in the evening, gets a backup car from Bill Trout that he's never driven before in his life, starts dead last in the field, and with a couple of laps to go, puts the hurtin' on the hitman, Brett Hearn, to score an incredible victory. This one earns the official Cowboy Paul Szmal. Hooah!
Hey, how's the man?
What's up, big guy?
Yeah, I'm all right.
How you feel, all right?
All right. So far, so good. You got a lot of holes out there with my name on them. Hey, well, man. How are you?
Good?
Hey, how are you? How are you, man?
Let's have a go.
What do you think?
You ready?
On behalf of David Lape, I'd just like to thank all of you for coming. Obviously, this is the best field that we've had up here in about the last 5 or 6 years at least. David, this is Andy Fusco. It's important for us to know how many cars we got so we know how many groups of warm-ups we're going to have. We're about to start hot laps.
Okay, I'll get it for you.
Let them do their drivers meeting, whatever they want.
Have your first heat right there at 7:30.
Have it lined up, ready to go.
You know, I don't know how Glenn smiles when he does this. It's beyond me.
You go to get your spot back, he fights back and forth, back and forth. You know what I mean? I said, how are you going to deal with it? You know, I know Danny's a good guy at heart, but I mean, he's just real tough on the racetrack. I know, you know. I mean, that's just the way he is. You know what I mean? I got to deal with him the way he deals with me.
You take the body off the car?
Just the front. But I mean, hey, I work on it all week long. And, hey, how you doing? How you been?
It's pretty frustrating going home with $200, but I think we're getting closer. Last week we were going real good, got a flat tire. So we're 2 to 3 tenths off. Just 122.8.
Yeah.
What were the rest?
23.
Wow. So that's not good. I need to get some aspirin. This place gives me a headache. Okay, here we go. Green's out, great start. What? I am. Hey, you big son of a gun. Nice job out there. Hey, it's the way to use that lap traffic too, guys.
You were never going to
move that lamp trap.
I know it. I'm bashing my head against the wall right now with this. It just doesn't feel good. I don't know. I'm going to sneak around and see what's going on.
I said, how'd it feel? He said, terrible.
I don't know what to do either. That's the
You're
thing.
hooked up right now.
No, I'm not. Jack spun out twice. All these guys are spinning out. I almost spun out. What do you? Did you? Oh, you and Prati made up out there?
Well, I said that thing in there like I was Steve Kinsler. No way.
Yeah.
Oh. Nice legs.
Huh? You couldn't even talk me out of that, huh? Hey, Brett, we're going to tee off over here. You want to tie your ball onto mine and give it a thrill?
I'll trade you, Decker. You take my golf ball for a throw ride, and I'll let you tag onto my back bumper tonight at Rolling Wheels.
Ready?
He's going to come up here.
Ready?
Heads. All right, it's heads, and it is heads.
Inside or outside? You're inside. Full sitter, he kicks inside.
Thanks, Stanley. Good luck to you, pal.
Give him a good ride, man.
Thanks, pal. Give me that.
You know, you'll stay fast if you stay up on top. But if you go to that bottom, the minute you start down there, and you get her dancing and ruin this, we slow right down. So you gotta pay attention.
Come on, Victor. Come on. Come on, baby. Come on.
Nerves. Jerome, I tell you, this is the hardest part of being a promoter. Is a day like today, when it sprinkles and sprinkles for 2 hours. I thought you'd have brought the sunshine with you. I've been a nervous wreck. Nervous wreck.
Double-cam racing action continues here at the Brewerton Speedway tomorrow night. Here at the DJ Third season, we've got some good stuff happening. Our regular 4 divisions.
Hey, Grandpa, all the radar stuff, it's going right to the east of us. Oh,
It's going out that way. There's nothing coming?
Well, there's nothing coming. We're still under the really light stuff.
Yeah.
But that'll move out in about a half an hour, they said.
Okay.
Well, 1998 was certainly a barn burner of a season, and 1999 looks to be even better. We hope you're there every step of the way on the dirt circuit with us. Till then, time to ride the gate, close the corral, and wrap up shop for this one. This is Cowboy Paul Szmal saying, and a tip of the hat to Mr. Logan, so long for now. We'll leave you with the ultimate, the 1998 Dirt Motorsports Driver of the Year. Breakout, a term used in the sport of drag racing. But in 1998, the Dirt Motorsports Driver of the Year had a breakout too, a breakout season. Billy Decker's been a contender and winner for several years on the dirt circuit, but 98 proved to be the biggest year ever for the Bug Chaser squad. It began with a change in venue, as the Decker team was one of several who descended on the Land of Legends to call Canandaigua their Saturday night home. Decker was fast immediately and gained momentum throughout the season to earn the track championship. At the D-shaped Dirt Demon Brewerton Speedway, Decker ended the 4-year run of Barefoot Bob McCready atop the point standings. And at the highly competitive Cayuga County Fair Speedway, Decker stood tall atop the championship hill as well. As the season approached the home stretch, Decker's momentum rose to a fever pitch, with hard-fought Skull Series wins at Delaware and Canandaigua, with a mountain that is the Eckerd 300 looming in the horizon. Decker made the climb, scoring his first ever Eckerd 300 win and locking up the Skull Bandit Racing Super Dirt Series title for the first time. As the curtain prepared to drop on the 98 season at Orange County, Decker gave his encore. A strong performance, a CarQuest Eastern States 200 win, and most importantly, a Mr. Dirt Championship crown. It was indeed a breakout year for Billy Decker, so it's only fitting to break out the 1998 Dirt Motorsports Driver of the Year award for the Franklin Flyer.